from Bozeman now, so they're in the same boat. So there's some I claim and then there's
Well, my
others.
mother, so we're going back that way.
Oh boy, uh-oh, oh dear.
Yeah, but the height of the problem was yesterday when they brought that grizzly cake to church yesterday. You know,
Hey,
Oh,
you know,
I got one of those Lutherans know what they're
I
doing.
tell you, Terry Sachs was, or Terry Nugent was working on that, and well, yeah, tastes okay maybe. You know?
I just soon eat it up.
Of course, I'm making that coffee out of the Bobcat cups I have. You know, she got new, we got on the commercial.
Yeah, but
coffee.
Oh, didn't
New
you?
cups, what's
We
going
wouldn't
on?
let her throw out the Bobcat cups,
Yeah.
and I
like
think,
to throw 'em out.
and I think I've got some Stockman Bank cups coming
Oh my
through.
God. It's just no help. It's not.
Good morning.
Well, we can root for either team, Montana.
Yep.
Just both schools need.
I know, there's certain times that, you know, I never went to ball games, I never paid any attention to it until Kern started making phone calls and my accountant started telling me about things.
Yeah.
And so now I gotta root for
writing
that.
Well, I do. I don't follow the games or anything, but, you know, loyalty's there.
Bill,
Good morning.
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, wow.
I told him to just plow through. This is Carol's response.
Exactly what I said.
Right, yeah, so I printed that, just to let you know.
I'm back.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Wednesday, Deborah Brown wanted to have a meeting, and so we're gonna have a meeting. It's about that school, the citizens want to.
Are you Laura?
Yes,
I'm Rhonda.
Wanda, yes, we have met before.
Yes,
Good to see you
How you
again.
doing?
We've got everything ready, we drew a map, so everything's good to go.
I have a picture of that too.
Excellent, all right.
Kim, did you get your pickup status?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
fuel line had got a hole rubbed in it and
Mm.
dumped the diesel fuel down in the clutch. And ended up having to get parts, and of course when you break down on Sunday, that's not a good deal. So I had to wait till Monday to get the parts, and then out there on the highway, standing on my head, putting the new line in, and got back on the road and
Good.
hee-haw.
Did anybody take pictures of that? I'd like to have a picture of you standing on your head by the side of the way.
Well, you can bet you the highway patrol got pictures of him going up and down the road.
Can we stand if you pledge allegiance,
Sorry, I'm slow.
Thank you.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everyone. And I just have to say thanks for all your support through my illness. I tried to kick out and it didn't work, so we're stuck. Community update, Franklin.
Attended an airport board meeting. That was it.
And what went on there?
Discussion about their future money they're gonna be wanting, not necessarily wanting, they're planning for. In time, they're gonna have to redo that runway, so they're setting, and the money they had left over from this year, clear the CHIP fund, and stuff like that. So basically, that was it.
Laura?
I also attended that airport board meeting, and today Bob Hollister dropped off their budget, so they're good to go. They're looking at transferring about $4,000 of unexpected funds into that capital improvement plan. And also had a meeting with Agency on Aging, and just talked about some of the immediate needs of the senior center. They have a propane stove there that they're doing all their cooking on, and there's a perpetual propane leak. Mike keeps fixing it, but it just doesn't want to stay fixed. I think we're gonna have to address that stove, just for safety reasons fairly soon. I'm gonna pursue a grant with Denny Washington and with Red Ant's Pants. See if we can get some help on that at least.
It's a dangerous situation.
It is, it
Very
needs to be
dangerous.
addressed. Yeah,
I mean, right there next to the hospital and all senior citizens.
yeah. We did address the grant before, but because of our connection and misunderstood connection with Rocky, they were thinking the senior center was Rocky's. It's actually the county's. They were not as inclined to give a grant, so I'm gonna pursue that again. So, as a county.
Laura, can you speak up a little, please? We can't
Yes,
hear you back.
thank you, sorry. Do you want me to repeat anything?
No, that's fine.
Okay. And that's all I've got, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anybody else, something you might have forgotten or? Okay, I think we've got time to do some mail then.
The top two pieces are paperwork for upcoming meetings today.
Okay?
And I did make copies of all the mail for Commissioner Salivka and put it in his mailbox. I noticed he did retrieve that Friday.
Can somebody add some light to this Towns and Booster Club?
Yeah, that is a requested grant from the trust board. We addressed it a little bit last week, but it wasn't on the agenda, so we weren't able to act on it. They have solicited support and funds from a variety of nonprofits and different groups around the community. And then they went to the trust board for the balance that's needed. It's a total of $44,000. The $15,000 that this claim is for is a down payment for Northwestern Energy to get started, and it's for stadium lights for the football fields. They can have night games, more night games.
And the total cost of the project?
$44,000 is what they're looking at from the trust board. What the total is beyond that from the other groups, I don't know.
Okay. Comments, Franklin?
No, I don't have comments on it.
Well, I will move that we sign the down payment for the trust board in the amount of $15,000 for the Booster Club.
It's moved and seconded that we approve to the Towns and Booster Club from the trust board $15,000 for football stadium lights. All in favor say aye.
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 Because that we're reimbursed back after that grant's,
No, this is not money that's coming from the county. The money that the trust board uses to fund
right,
these
or
types.
in other words, they'll be reimbursed back after,
No,
when the money comes.
No,
the grant for that 15,000?
no, the trust board gets their money from the cabin sales from years ago.
Right.
They have a corpus of $2.5 million, and anything above that, they are allocated to spend specifically on recreation-related activities. So what they've been able to do is pull out money because they've been doing so well. And so they have a chunk of about $200,000 right now. So different groups like the Booster Club will go to them and request money to fund things like stadium lights. So, this is actually money that the trust board has as interest from the 2.5 million that they give to different recreational entities around the county.
But in the end, they'll be reimbursed back of this year.
No. They'll get interest from the 2.5 million as long as the stock market continues.
I'm talking about this 15,000 here. Is that the way usually is, Elaine?
No, it's not. The Booster Club has money to give away as a gift, and that's what they're doing here. But it has to be to a recreation type
Right.
thing, and as this is.
But in the end, aren't they reimbursed back? Okay.
Okay, let's try this one more time then. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carried. Okay, I've got claims in the amount of $18,601.56.
I will move we pay those approved claims in the amount of $18,601.56.
It's moved in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. How about that second page? Is in there?
I actually copied those for Ann for the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go, Ann.
That was actually done more for me to help keep track than anything else.
And this must go to you too. I think I might have gotten these in the wrong order. And this is a letter from the trust board. Is proud to announce the partnership with the Townsend Booster Club to provide funds for the outdoor event lighting project, grant application attached. The trust board has committed $44,000, for the improvement updates on the lights. The balance of the funding will come from community clubs and residents, as well as in-kind contributions. The Booster Club would like to start work as soon as possible. When the invoices are ready, the trust board will submit the paperwork to the commissioners for payment to the Booster Club. If there are any questions, please contact Virgil Banquet, Chair of the Trust Board, Debbie Randolph, the Trust Board Secretary. And I don't think we need to do it, we already did.
We just did the down payment.
Right.
We want to wait to hear from the trust board for the rest of it.
I do so.
Okay.
Another letter from the trust board. Dear County Commissioners, the Broadwater Trust Board is proud to announce a partnership with the Old Baldy Recreation Association to make improvements to the Old Baldy Golf Course. The trust board voted to approve the golf club grant application of funding for $18,622. Additional funding for the project will come from Old Baldy Recreation Association and in-kind partners. This project will provide new bathrooms, septic system, and a new roof. The Broadwater Trust Board has partnered with Old Baldy Golf Course on past projects and excited for the improvements to make the golf course an even better facility for Broadwater County residents. When invoices are ready, the Trust Board will submit the information to the Commissioners for payment to the Booster Club. If there's any questions, contact Virgil Banquet.
As that's already gone through the trust board, and then they just come to us for a double check, I would be happy to move that we support the trust board's recommendation and support this grant.
Okay, so moved and seconded then, that we approve the trust board in Lake Shores to fund the Old Baldy Recreation Association in the amount of $18,622. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carried.
Excuse me, Madam Chair,
Yes,
on that, do you happen to have a total amount on that project?
$25,170.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Wasn't this on the agenda last time? It's the resolution on deeds of recording.
Yes, it was, and we had a good conversation, last week. Mark, Simonich, thank you very much, is gonna come see us today during public comment as well and address that at that time.
Let's set it aside.
I'll see him here yet.
No.
That is the rent that DOR, Department of Revenue, pays the county for the 2 offices upstairs. We discussed that last week with Judy Tice with Department of Revenue, and Commissioner Salivka opted to table that until this week.
Is that still the case?
Yeah, they want a reduction, I thought we just should leave it as it is.
I think if we leave it as it is, it doesn't stay that way. I think the new law passed by the legislature automatically brings it down. We could check into that and see for sure.
Okay.
Madam Chair, that's what Judy Tice did last week, is part of House Bill 2.
That was my understanding. I mean, whether we like it or not, that's what the legislature did to us.
We've already,
Let's go ahead and get it off the table.
All right. Are you making the motion then?
Well, I'm not gonna make the motion, but I still grumble about it, but something has to be.
Yeah, no choice.
well, as Commissioner Salivka said, let's just go ahead and take care of it and take it off the table. I will therefore move that we sign the contract for fiscal year 14 and 15 with Department of Revenue.
All in second?
Yeah, something.
It's moved and seconded that we approve the contract with the state for Department of Revenue for office space. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed the same. Motion carried. You both have to sign also.
All right, thank you. Oh, we have one more page. So I'll send it back this way before sending it the other way.
I guess I didn't notice that.
The little tabs got all turned under. And there's 3 different pages.
Come on up, Dana. Morning, sir.
How are you?
Getting better, just a little bit chilly.
Good.
Tell everybody you can't keep a good Irish girl down. My husband always adds, or a bad one either.
Yeah.
report, Dana.
All right, since the last time I was here, I guess we got, a bunch of work done on Sand Hill Road, got moved over and gravelled.
And a great job, I might add.
Thank you. Cottonwood, same, for quarter mile, 3/8 of a mile. Up there, we had some pretty bad washboard problems all the way up through there, so. Got that taken care of anyway. We got Johnson Loop, you been down there? Got that built up and taken care of the other day. We still got a little bit of fine grading to do on it yet, but, spent a little time Thursday night, Friday morning up on Dry Creek. That's when we came through Thursday night. We washed a whole bunch of stuff down there on the road and, were you up there at all? Yeah, it was worse than the last time a month ago, so, I spent some time up there and got it coned off and stuff. Thursday night after I got a call and Friday morning, I got back up with the grader and just kinda made sure everything was off the road and got her leveled out again for about 2 or 3 miles there, all the way up through Rick Myers, of course, to Darby's. And then, we've got some washing down on Dry Hollow too. I talked to Bob Davis Friday morning, and in fact, 2 days over.
Upper part or lower?
Well, kinda all the way up through there. Looks like, a couple mile path. All the water just hit there, and I mean, it just came down through them draws, and I mean, there was rocks that big around in the middle of the road. So, anyway, we got all of it cleared off, and TJ's up now, taking care of that, the rest of it now, and, Mark and Willie are out on Tossin Dam Road right now grading, so.
That must be the same storm that got those guys in the Gallatin Valley then.
Well, I'm assuming at the same time.
And, yeah, we just barely got any of that, other than that there, and that north end, I guess they got some, but, yeah, it really wiped out through Manhattan, through there.
See, I was
Twin
home,
bridges.
and I was home, I got a lot of rain, but I didn't get nothing like, and you got some hail too,
We got
didn't you?
hammered,
Oh, and some of those out there?
yeah. Yeah, and we still had piles of hail at 1 o'clock in the afternoon,
Yeah,
12:30, before I went for that airport meeting.
yeah, well, when I went up,
Quite a bit.
when I was back up Friday morning, I mean, it was stacked up that deep in places. So,
Yeah.
The grain elevator that we always used to Butte called Bob to see if we'd gotten it.
no,
We said, no, we hadn't, and he said, Gallatin Valley has gotten wiped out.
yeah, so I heard.
I guess it's just down flat, the hay, the potatoes are a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to Coopers there yesterday, Coopers, and they were telling me pretty bad, so.
That is so sad.
Yeah, but anyway, that's what we're doing today, and then tomorrow we're gonna, I gotta move a pump out, so we got water out on Confederate, New Goose Bay, I guess, and a couple of them others out there, Lower Confederate, we gotta get it too, so.
What are you gonna do on Goose Bay, Dana?
We're gonna blade it for right now, I've got that pile of gravel, but I gotta get it sprayed.
Take it, what?
I gotta get it sprayed, there's snapweed on it, so I'm gonna try to run out there tomorrow with our sprayer and just spray that pile down, or
That's
something,
That's at, right there on Gulf's, that little, that
Yeah.
pile that there.
Yeah, and there's enough to get a little on top of that first bit, but,
Yeah, there's not too much in that pile there.
well, you get around the back of it, I walked around it today, there's 1,000 yards in there,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a little more than what it looks like.
oh, okay.
Cause I was looking this morning, when I pulled up to it, it looked to me like there was about 500 yards there, but, then you get around the back, and there's a pretty good chunk.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, we'll get that first bid anyway, and call it good.
While you're there on Tosh Dam, you're gonna get a couple truckloads up there where those rocks are so bad there just before that little.
Probably not for a bit, we're gonna try to take care of, get that grading done here, and then get out here first, so we can get that taken care of.
I think that you probably wouldn't even have to have a blade up there, I think you could probably just spread it with rug good enough to, it's only about 200 yards, 300 yards, isn't it, that time? Or-
Yeah, and I think Mark was gonna go ahead and go on up above there and get that blade out a little bit this morning too, while he was there, so, we'll take a look at it and see if we can get some spread on it or something there, Yeah, we'll get that. Dale called left a message at the shop the other day, Dale Johnson, something about putting some material in on that Lombard.
Lombard road's getting
somewhere.
pretty
Well, he was talking about one spot, down around Barney's or something, you know anything about that? I couldn't understand his message.
Oh,
I
it
haven't
might
got
be
back to him.
where, it always gets that mud hole right in there, right close to where that measuring.
Is that where that little pipe goes across
Yeah,
there?
yeah. I assume that's what he's talking about then.
Well, might be, maybe, I'll probably have to get a hold of him and see what he's talking about, because I couldn't really understand it very well, so. I'll do
But I know
that.
Lombard's getting, in fact, well, you got the
Yeah.
blade there, it'd be good to hit it now.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, that grid will be out there for a while, we're gonna keep it out there another week or so, we'll be on these bus routes and get them. Some of them, some of them aren't too bad, but a couple of them aren't really either. They're gonna work on a little bit along Mountain there this morning, and they gotta get 437 and get that taken care of too, it's getting all roughed out through there, so.
That would be great, they'll be moving potatoes here shortly.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they've been moving hay and silage already, so,
We always get a call right before the potatoes,
yeah.
so if we could beat that, that'd be great.
Other than that, that's about all we got.
Never run out of roads to do, do you?
No, just can't get to them quick enough is all.
Hey Dana, you spent a couple days upkeeping your equipment, how's it looking?
Pretty good, pretty good. Got some greasing to do on the trucks, dust gets pretty tough on them, so gotta get that taken care of here. Yeah, this machinery looks good.
Excellent.
I had a question thrown at me. Why is the backhoe out where it's at? It's been sitting there.
Really just out there, We did that pipe out there and a couple down by when we were doing that road.
Makes
I'm gonna
sense.
take it to Duck Creek tomorrow morning on, do that rip wrap. And John Engels just stopped by the shop, he's got a couple cattle guards coming for that lower Gurnett Creek, they're all shot. In fact, he said they should be here this week, so I gotta get some locates and I'll just leave it out there,
Makes sense.
do them while we're out there too, so.
What's the next big project?
I'm hoping we don't have any big projects. I'm trying to get little ones right now, just, it's gonna get winter time pretty quick,
No kidding.
no sooner than we want, so,
Quicker than we're ready for.
yeah.
That newspaper, that's a short haul there, so that'll be pretty good there.
Yeah, we'll gotta get that out in the day.
Are you gonna go as far as the creek or just to the?
Well, we're gonna start the highway and just, I think we'll be able to get that first mile anyway, so,
That's the main part, that's the county responsibility there.
it's all county responsibility.
Well, yeah.
I wish it wasn't, but it is.
The feds say no to helping, don't they?
Huh?
The feds have said no to helping
Oh, yeah.
several times.
I think you guys though, when they start doing this thing out here, we need to get,
You bet.
you guys need to get something in place so they'll take care of that road. Either with chloride, we don't mind going out and blading it, but we gotta have something to stabilize that road.
Which are
Either
these
pave it or pay for the mag for twice a year.
That's,
And
I
that'll-
feel the same thing, cause if they're gonna put 200,000 or 300,000 in that, or whatever they're gonna put in that campground, they can
They need to,
budget enough in there for the road.
cause they're the ones that destroy the road.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We've
Yeah.
had no teeth, but this project will give us the teeth to be able to get that done.
Well, I hope so, because I'll tell you, I've talked to some county guys up in Liberty County, up there where Tyler Reservoir's at. BOR pays to mag that whole road, all the way from the highway clear to Tyler, every year.
Really?
Fish and Game pays down on the, out of Red Lodge there, I can't remember what creek it is. They pay for that whole road to get magged along that whole river, it's 14 miles. Fish and Game pays all the bill.
Wow.
So,
Just
why
to put
can't
the
we?
pressure on them.
Yeah, why can't we? We ought to be able to.
I think we should send a letter. Yeah, right quick. so that they know what we're thinking.
Yeah, and there should be some more meetings coming up, isn't there, for that?
I would think so,
Thing out
yeah,
there?
I would think there would be.
You know, we need to jump on it, though, I mean,
Well, it's amazing that they have all these other projects that they're willing to do,
oh, I know,
and we've asked and asked,
yeah.
and it falls on deaf ears.
And I haven't talked, I know Sean Warwick up there in Liberty County, and I should actually call him and talk to him and see if they've, you know, what they've done to get this done, or whether, you know, BOR's just come in and done it, or what the deal is, but.
Would you do that and then let us know?
Yeah, I can get a hold of him and see kind of where, you know, what happened there, or how they made it happen, I guess. I don't know. At least get some idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should get a letter drafted up, we don't have to send it yet, but we can get it
Give it
drafted, so
to
it's on the table so we remember it. This is something too easy
Yeah.
to
And actually,
back burn on it.
and actually demand it. I mean,
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, they're the ones that use it the most.
or put a monkey wrench in their little program out there sometime. I don't know. It just kind of bad, just get walked on all the time and everything else. But anyway, that's about it.
Okay, we'll follow up on that and then let us know.
Okay,
Would please?
I'll do that.
Madam Chair, before Dana leaves, we've had on the agenda twice now, a speed limit on Quarter Circle Road. It's actually under items for discussion, action, review, and signature, and we did take some public comment last month, last week. And we have, 2 pages of signatures that have been vetted with the clerk of the Quarter's office. I'm wondering if we couldn't address that at this time, since Dana's here. And we have Rhonda Headland from Quarter Circle, who's kind of headed this whole project here with us now.
Welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell a little bit about the background and how this all came about, please?
I've been there for 10.5 years. There's not a speed limit on the road. Most all other county roads that I drive do have a speed limit. The one across going down to White Earth has a speed limit of 35. This has been an ongoing issue for 10 years. For the last 4 years, I've been kind of pursuing getting a speed limit. We've had several incidences happen on that road. And I was not aware of the procedure, obviously, but I had talked to many different sheriffs, highway patrol. Think I talked to the county before, and every time I would talk to somebody, I would get told, yeah, we do need a speed limit here, we'll see what we can do, we'll address this. I was under the assumption that sooner or later, we would get a speed limit there. Didn't happen. That is a recreational road. People go up to Pole Creek. We have kids going up and down that road 100 miles an hour. We've had wrecks. I've had children come to my house bloody, their car totaled on the corner. I've had problems with a certain neighbor up the road with their kids particularly. And I'm told, you know, there is no speed limit. They can go 70 miles an hour if they want to, and they do. So they get to the corner of my property, a couple people in particular, and rev up their engine and flip us off as they go by. So I am, you know, going to pursue reckless driving and careless driving. I understand there's no speed limit. What I am told is when there is a speed limit placed there, then they can get tickets for speeding. But as of right now, there is no speed limit, which is just ridiculous. There are children that walk on that road. Margaret Bells, my neighbor, her and her husband, they walk and ride on that road, ride their bikes. She said when she first moved out there, you know, people were courteous and would, you know, slow down, whatever. They don't even slow down anymore, just blow by. Yesterday, I thought she was gonna get hit on her bike. I thought I was gonna call 911 just yesterday because a truck just comes blowing by her as she is on her bike. She had to stop her bike and get over. It's ridiculous and it is uncalled for. And I really want to get a speed limit in place.
It's flat out rude.
It is. It's dangerous.
What would you suggest for a speed limit there?
35. That's what it is across the road going to the lake. And then it also has the cautionary signs, I believe, on the corners going down to White Earth that says 25. On the corner right behind my house is where a couple girls wrecked a car just last winter, rolled it, put it in the ditch, came to my house, bled head to toe. You know, it needs to be addressed. I have, you know, I wish that I would have looked into it more. I've been very busy and dealt with a couple deaths and stuff like that in the family, and every time something happens, then I'll call, and I'll get a sheriff, and then they'll, yep, you need a speed limit. We're gonna check into that. We're gonna call the county. We're gonna take care of that. Had no idea that we needed to go through this process to do it. And the one sheriff had the audacity to tell us, when we asked this kid to slow down, that we had no right to tell him to slow down because there is no speed limit on that road. So basically, he gave this child the right to drive recklessly and whatever. I did go to his supervisor, and that was addressed. That was totally out of line. To tell a 16-year-old that they didn't really do anything wrong because there's no speed limit.
Madam Chair, this subject has been advertised for the 3 weeks also, so we have met all the legal requirements. It is a county safety issue,
It is.
and it is a request that is citizen-driven.
And it could, I'm sorry.
I'd like to just make an amendment to that. I think we can't we, in that curve, put that down to 25 for that curve? You know, on that date?
Well, yeah, you gotta, I mean, it's just a warning sign.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I
caution
mean,
or whatever.
I
Yeah,
think
we-
that should be part of this here.
It looks at a quick glance that there's probably 25, 30 names here.
Mhm.
Is that right?
There wasn't one person in my neighborhood that I talked to that objected, not one. And I mean, we went on the other side, speaking of, okay, that's Quarter Circle Road. Quarter Circle Road then turns into Pole Creek.
Yeah.
I was on that side. The guy over there, I can't remember his name, but I could look, he was like, oh yeah, we need a speed limit, and it needs to be posted all the way around. Those,
Tony,
let me see if I can figure out who it is.
I know Tony.
He's a rancher.
Okay,
you know.
Hefner, was it Jeff Hefner?
Denise. Orderman,
Okay, Janice, yeah, I know
well,
her.
she's one of them.
Yeah,
It's Rick Neal's daughter.
Yeah,
Mm.
she works with me. Dolly McMaster even signed my petition.
well, she gets out there, I mean, she irrigates right there, so.
She's always on the Quarter Circle Road. One of these days, you know, somebody's gonna get killed.
So yeah, I could actually, if you're going all the way around, you just, I mean, you put a sign on one end, put a sign on the other end, and maybe put one in between it.
And you have those signs in stock,
Yeah,
correct?
Comments, Franklin?
No, I'm 100% for it, and add this, opinion goes to curve there also.
Are you talking the curve right above your house?
Yeah.
Wanda? Right,
Yeah, you know, it's just that,
yeah,
Yeah.
right there
where the brown house is.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Joe?
When did they change the county road speed limits through the state? From 35 to 45, and then they canceled that, am I correct?
I don't know, for a long, long time, there's been no speed limit on county roads.
Well, when I took the driver's test, and when my kids took the driver's test, there was a speed limit on all county roads of 35 miles an hour.
It's too bad it still isn't, but
I do some checking to see.
I know what you're talking about. I think there used to be an understanding, that was like 100 years ago, that if the road wasn't posted and you were on a gravel road, you were not to go any more than 45 miles an hour. It was a standard, because one neighbor actually talked to me, she's like, well, no, it's 45. I'm like, no, it's not. And I think that was a long time ago. Now
yeah,
it's,
it's been a long time ago that it's been changed.
yeah. If it's not posted, it's 70.
I know some counties have, and I don't know, I'm thinking Flathead, maybe, I might be wrong. They've got something in their county resolution, county ordinance, something about 35 on all gravel roads in that county. And I don't know I can't remember if it's Flathead or who it is. But there is a couple of them.
Would you check into that, please, and report back?
And we can see what's going on, see if it is, if it isn't, then get a hold of LTAP, see if they know that. Some of that stuff they do.
That would be great.
But as it is, will you put speed limits on that road then?
I will move that we adopt the 35-mile-per-hour speed limit as requested by the citizens on this petition and include the warning signs for the curb that we have talked about.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we put 35-mile-an-hour speed limit on Quarter Circle Road coming around Pole Creek
Right.
to the highway. And 25 on the two really bad corners.
There's just that one I think she talked about.
I don't know, there's one. I
No,
don't know
there's some
about-
other curves around there,
Yeah.
but I mean, they're so short.
Yeah, this is,
Oh,
this is
okay.
the main one, and the main thing is in there that makes a complete circle of the Cold Creek Road. I don't think that was in the first part, but you mentioned it, that's great, no, you're fine.
All in favor, say aye.
I
Oppose the same. You got a sign.
Oh, thank you, that'll be awesome.
And Dan will do that right away, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably, Thursday, Friday, or Wednesday or Thursday.
That'd be great, thank you very much. I know it might be hard to kinda enforce it, but I could have my cousin come and sit in my driveway. That's right.
All right, yeah.
thank you very much for staying. Thanks, Rhonda.
Thank you
Very much.
And then they still may have accidents, but
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess the main thing is that it is posted and people will slow down, I mean, I know they will.
And there's some teeth to enforce it.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
thank you.
thanks.
Thanks for bringing it to us. Letter from MBAC with quarterly reports.
I have seen that.
Are you done with it?
Well, yeah, maybe we can copy everything.
You have a copy, I copied all the mail for you.
Was that
So,
in there?
yep,
Got a letter from MDT. Dear Chairperson Gravely, I'm pleased to inform you that the July 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2014 Broadwater County DUI Task Force Plan has been approved. Thank you for conducting impaired driving education and prevention programs in Broadwater County. With your continued assistance, I am confident we can eliminate the high rate of fatalities, injuries, and property damage caused by impaired drivers. Your task force will receive quarterly payments based on the driver's license reinstatement fees that were collected in your county. The county treasurer will receive these payments the month following the end of each quarter. Please note, this is a special revenue that must be accounted for in a dedicated fund that is used solely for the DUI task force expenditures. If you have any questions, please feel free to talk to Leroy Delmont, Traffic Safety Planner, State Highway Traffic Safety in Helena. Thank you, Michael, to the lead director. Okay, now we've got a thing from Legislative Services, that the new books are gonna.
Madam Chairman,
Yes,
just as a point of interest, how much of our license fee goes to this DUI task force, do you know?
I don't know, but I will check and find out and let you know.
None of it.
Isn't that the
He said
reinstatement
that
fees
for
when I,
unfunded.
That's from fines. Well, when
Right.
No, they said from license renewal.
it's when a person,
It's from the reinstatement
From the
fees, when
reinstate-
somebody
Oh,
gets their
rein-
license reinstated,
Oh,
there's a
okay.
fee, and that's what that's from, it's
Okay.
not from everybody's driver's
Okay,
license.
I thought it was a portion of the driver's license fee.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think it's half of the reinstatement fee that comes back to the county.
And half goes to the
And
state.
something, and the reinstatement fee is what, something like $200?
Mhm.
Yes,
I think is what I was told.
I think that
that's what
sounds
you had
good.
to pay.
Well, you got me, Nicole.
Okay, legislature, the new code books are out, or will be out this fall, and do we want any extras?
I ordered what we have ordered in the past,
Title seven.
right, and 76.
Mhm.
So, I did turn mine in on Friday.
Oh, you did, okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
Have you turned yours in, Franklin?
No. In fact, I don't know if I ever cut that.
I copied it for you and put it in your mail as well.
No, I mean the original,
Oh, good, okay.
yeah. So
Oh,
I'll
probably
get one,
not, yeah.
I'll get one now.
Well, you have to tell them which one you want. I mean, the set is about,
Yeah, I saw that list there. Okay.
Title seven is local government.
Is that the one you usually get then?
I always get seven.
Okay, and is that pretty much the only one then, or?
76 is a good help,
Okay, I'll do the same.
okay?
Do I have to fill it out separate, or it's taken care of
I can
now,
do
right?
that.
Okay,
But
thank you.
just double my stuff.
Good, that sounds good.
Okay. Paul, come on up. Come on down, Paul.
Come on down.
If you want, Elaine, I can just add those to my order and do the same thing for all three of us.
If you would, please.
Sure.
I'm Paul Bray, Chairman of the Homeowners Committee on Sauter Lane, the Sunrise Homeowners Committee, that's the west half of Sauter Lane. We have recently had a petition from one of the homeowners out there to reduce the utility easement on the south side of his property from 20 feet to 10 feet. The planning board has no objection to this. I've talked with Mike Evans, who represents Northwest Energy, who services that area. They have no objection. I talked with Ed Schindel, who's involved with the emergency services, and they have a 30-foot right-of-way for access to that area. They have no objection. I have votes from um, 18 of the 24 lot owners out there. None of them has any objection. I have not heard an objection from anyone to doing this.
Did you say this is on the west side?
On the south side.
Okay, on the south side.
On the south side. There's still a 20-foot easement on the west side and a 20-foot easement on the east side. All of the other lots out there have a 10-foot easement on each side. On these particular lots, there's a 10-foot easement on lot 23 on the north side, and on lot 23 on the south side, on lot 24 on the north side, and lot 24 on the south side, if we approve this. This body was brought to their attention, to your attention some weeks ago. This body had no objection to it at that time. And I guess the thing we're asking for is approval to do this, what we would have to do legally, as I understand it, is void the 20-foot utility easement and then reinstate a 10-foot utility easement. And I would like to propose that we do this at this time, so the lot owner can get on with this construction project.
So there has been no complaints out there at all?
No objection to it from anyone that we could think of who might be involved with this.
Does anybody else have a comment on that? Okay, board members?
Yeah, we talked about this, a while back.
Madam Chair,
Tim?
real quick question, is the reduction in easement for construction, what construction is being done? Is it just an expansion of a facilities, home?
No, he's putting
barns?
he's putting a shed, a garage,
Okay.
a shop
Okay.
on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Nicole had mentioned, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when we talked about this, that really we can offer our support and put that on record, but we really can't make a decision until the COS comes forward. Do you know if that COS will be coming, today?
It will
Or-
be coming today.
Okay, all right. So at this point, that is still, the correct procedure would just be to voice or even vote on our support, but we really can't even vote on anything till we see the COS.
Right, yeah, it would be probably beneficial to the board to not vote on approving this, but supporting, Mr. and Mrs. Olson's, desire to go forward with this.
Didn't you present the COS when you
I did
presented
not,
this?
no, not, that was actually, I was showing them, a recorded plat, but not the actual COS that's going to be recorded. They have not moved forward with this because they wanted to be sure that the homeowners association were in support before they actually created the COS. So it's in the works, the COS is in the works.
How soon can it be done?
It depends on his surveyor. Right now, it's up to his surveyor who's in Homa.
It has to be surveyed?
Yeah, in order
You
to have
can't
it.
measure 10 feet, it has to be surveyed?
It has to be surveyed, yep. And he's already done that, his surveyor's already done the work, he just hasn't finished the project. And I think he probably was waiting for,
Oh,
to hear back from the homeowners
Okay.
association today before he proceeded with that, so. And Mr. Olson is fully aware of this, and I have spoken about this, as I'm sure you've spoken with him. So he knows how this is moving forward.
So really, a vote would be a courtesy at this point for him to take some of the pressure off the stress of the unknown.
A vote of support,
Sure.
not,
Sure. Well, I would move that we support the homeowners association as well as Olson's, on their, desire to void 20 feet of easement and reinstate 10 feet. That's it?
It's moved and seconded, then that we grant approval,
Actually, just that we support.
support the homeowners association and Mr. and Mrs. Olson on their project. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Can you then give me some guidance on what's the next step? How can we expedite this?
from here on out, there's nothing more required of you or the homeowners association. This is, now we're moving into the process with the certificate of
What
survey.
can we do to expedite it?
There's not really an expeditious way to do this, it's just the process. Our examining land surveyor has 2 weeks to review the survey, he's now 1 week into it, he's got 1 week left for him to finish reviewing it, and then it's up to his surveyor. So,
Government moves slow, Paul.
Man. This poor guy's been trying to get this done for 4 months.
and he's aware of this process,
Yeah,
I've spoken
yeah.
with Cheryl for quite a while.
The unfortunate thing is he was not aware of the process and nobody made him aware of the process along the way. If I hadn't been here when Nicole presented this program some weeks ago to know what to do, he'd still be floundering in government bureaucracy.
Was this, we're probably gonna go to Gerald about it?
Yeah.
And Gerald knew this before he purchased it, we've talked about it before he purchased the property, that this is what would need to happen.
Doesn't make you like it.
Nope.
It makes it what it is. Okay.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks.
That goes along with our Alert Pro, the 8x11s there. That's the proposal put together by Jim Webb from when he and Larry Gibson showed up here and gave us the presentation on video surveillance as well as video recordings of these meetings, as well as, again, the surveillance in the halls of the courthouse, just for public safety.
There's two sets here.
I think they're both different. I think one of them, I'm not sure what the difference is, but I do believe they're two different proposals. If not, it's just two copies so that we had it share.
No, it is two different ones.
And we have been actually lucky enough to have Jake, I don't know if he's here right now, but he has set up the camera and is putting these meetings on YouTube. So they have been video recorded.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
The proposals that came in on the audio, video, do you have some figures on those two proposals?
We do, we have two different proposals here, and the one that would be, and I'm not sure exactly what it all includes, I didn't spend a lot of time on this, because of the fact that we do have the video taping of these meetings right now. They are going to YouTube so that anybody can watch them, and they are recorded so that we have some kind of recording. Doesn't do anything about the need for surveillance that we had with the potential fires from earlier this year. But one proposal is $9,674, and the other one is okay, that would have been the surveillance and the meeting room. No, just surveillance. Inside the hallways and outside areas, that would be the $96.74. Just recording of our meetings and surveillance within these meeting rooms, and it would take in the entire meeting, including everybody here, and that total is $3,984.
It's not a bad figure.
No, especially when you look at the, just the audio equipment that Tim brought earlier was not quite that amount, but it was just microphones and recordings. And I don't even know if it recorded, but it just amplified the sound. So when you look at it in that context, it isn't that big. Also, if you look at the fact that if we had a fire due to what was happening last year and all the fires that were started, replacing the courthouse would be a whole lot more expensive than $10,000.
Exactly.
So just for clarification, excuse me, Madam Chair, that the two figures that you got, one is for complete surveillance only, the other is for the meeting room coverage only? Okay, thank you. So you're looking at a total of $13,000. Thank you.
I'm good. I've been sitting all
You're gonna
morning.
try and get taller?
Yeah, whatever it takes.
It's not gonna-
We have this extension. These guys are talking to us in just a few minutes, so I'm not sure that they're needed. Do you wanna call and get more chairs? Hey, Mike? Mike? Debbie. Hey, this is Laura. Would you put a call out to Mike and ask him if he could find a few more chairs for our meeting room? All right, thanks a lot. Bye. Okay.
This is from DEQ. To Commissioner Gravely, the Environmental Quality Council, a bipartisan interim committee of the legislature, is asking counties in Montana to identify risks and concerns associated with federal land management within each county. Over 29% of the land within Montana, about 27.4 million acres, is managed by the federal agencies. Many of the Montana's natural resources occur on federally managed land, including timber, grazing, forage, mineral, coal, oil, gas, water, and wildlife. Management of these lands can greatly affect local economies, tax base, employment opportunities, public safety, the surrounding environment, and recreational opportunities. This official state survey is required by the passage of Senate Joint Resolution 15 by the 2013 legislature for a study evaluating the management of certain federal lands in Montana, assessing risks, and identifying solutions. A copy of SJ 15 is enclosed. Your county was selected for this survey because 15% or more of the land in your county is managed either by the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, or another federal agency. More information, they give the website where we can get more information. Your county commission's official response will help the DEQ identify the great risks and concerns in each county and explore all possible solutions to correct significant problems. Please complete and return this survey by August 23rd. And it is, right. Would you like to fill that out?
I would like to request that since we are not experts in this area of land management, that we ask some of the partners to have a working meeting and work on this together. I think for some of these questions, I would like to know, why they do things. And again, we're not experts. So if we could do that, I think it would be a whole lot more response going on.
I think the Forest Service has their studies recommending that you just support it probably.
Well, but you need BLM and,
Yeah, but I think the Forest Service and BLM work together on that.
oh, do they?
I think so.
We also have FWP and DOR.
Yeah.
There might be others, that's all I thought of off the top of my head. It would also be good to get the different partners together. I just think a working meeting would be the best way to hear from all the different partners that are involved in this. Again, we're not experts in land management.
No. Oops. I'm sorry, this goes with it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Kyle, you're on.
Well, thank you. We got a couple handouts here for you to look over.
You, bring your chair in here.
I'm all right. Yeah.
First of all, I appreciate the time, and frankly, we should probably be by to talk with you on a quarterly basis to give you an update on how the hospital's doing. Here's one copy and another copy. And I think it's kind of, we've got a lot of good news to share with you. I think if I reflect back to the first week in November, it was like we owed almost $800,000 in payable. We were almost COD on everything. We had accounts receivables up to about $1.1 million, and frankly, they hand these up to everybody, please. We,
Hey, Tim, would you pass,
I
four
just-
of those
this-
around as well?
so since that time, we've lowered our active accounts receivable down to about between,
Four of this one, please.
I'm sorry for your.
wait. You might have to share out there. Not for everybody, probably. We've lowered our active accounts receivable down to 350,000, roughly about 30 to 40 days in accounts receivable. And a big thank you to Bozeman Deaconess. They've lent us their revenue cycle people who are just crackerjack. They helped us go through this whole process of streamlining revenue cycle, and make sure that we're on target in collecting our bills in a prompt, efficient way. Our now accounts payable are down to very manageable, between $80,000 to $120,000 per month, versus 800,000, roughly 720 to 800,000. So we made a lot of headway there with just the business side of Broadwater Health Services. We've stabilized our patient load, kind of is between 20 to 25 patients per day, and about 3 to 6 of those patients are actual hospital admitted patients. Which has meant a great deal to us on the cost-based reimbursed revenues that we collect from Medicare. So we opened up the clinic. You know, all of these things take some advanced dollars. I hope you understand that. Opened up the clinic, and frankly, this last month that we completed, we saw as many patients as the last month of operation before it closed saw. So that clinic then, I think, had about 18 months head start to get to the patient load. And so we're pleased with the number of patients that we're seeing in the clinic as well. So as we move forward, just kind of listed out here, it's important, I think, for everyone to know that we have uncompensated care, people who just cannot pay their bill, that varies between $320,000 to $400,000 a year that we actually write off. And you know, it's not something you mark your prices up to get more revenue to cover that. It's a cost that Broadwater County, Broadwater Health Center withstands every year, and it's a cost primarily to people who live here in this county. 80% of the people who we treat at the hospital come from Townsend proper. So when we talk about the lease that we have with the county and the actual relationship that we have, we can't turn anyone away. Anyone who presents, we need to treat, and whether they have means to pay for the bill or not, we treat them. So we're averaging, as of May 6th, 5.6 patients per day, but at the end of June, we saw close to 120 patients throughout the month, which is as high as it was the last month that we operated. We have received a certificate of need that to reopen the nursing home. There are 17 empty beds in the wing that we have that we want to get filled with nursing home patients, but it's a real long process. We have to come up with a whole new group of policies and procedures, and we're asking our staff to buy in on that, so they're all involved with the process of rewriting and adopting new policies and procedures. Those policies and procedures go to the state for approval before we open the nursing home. Plus, we have to coordinate any site visit to resurvey the nursing home before it's open, survey it when it's open, and resurvey it after it's been open for a while. So we're gonna get surveyed 3 times, and it's, I think it's fair to say that the federal government in general would prefer to see more care done on a home basis or an alternative basis to nursing homes. So that's not high on their priority list to go and survey our nursing home to get it open. So we're targeting October to get it open, but I'm not, we're at everyone else's beck and call in regards to whether surveyors can be scheduled and come through and give us the approval, how long it will take for the state to review the policies and procedures once we give them to them. And since we've been authorized for a certificate of need, we have 1 year from that time, which was in July, to reopen the nursing home. So there's a lot of progress that's been made, and I just want to say a huge thank you to the staff. Staff has been very, very understanding in a lot of different areas, wages, compensation, and doing what it takes just to get done what we need to get done. The Board of Trustees is meeting on a twice-a-month basis, on a regular twice-a-month basis to get their a good handle on any of the issues that are happening. And I will tell you that I think there are a lot of eyes watching. We're going to request today that you forgive the $50,000 first payment on the $400,000 loan, and also a strong consideration in evaluating the PILT grant. And we would like to see a grant of about $400,000 to us. And I just want to close by saying there are a lot of eyes watching how this all transpires. We've got a lot of interests in grants and potential grants that may evolve. And I think one of the first things they ask is what kind of support are the local people in the county given to you to make this thing work. It's a lot of money. It's a huge request. Where is it going to be used? Well, right off the bat, we have uncompensated care of almost $400,000. We've got cash flow demands of opening up the hospital, which was essentially almost closed, the nursing home and the clinic. We've got a lot of maintenance on the building, mechanical, and I will qualify this $800,000 by saying this is an in-house evaluation. We have not retained a mechanical engineer or an architect, although we will be talking to a few of them in the next week on what kind of costs would have to be entailed to go through. And mechanical and electrical is now almost 40 years old. Hard to believe, but the building has aged. It's been maintained pretty darn well, but 30, 40-year-old equipment probably needs replacement. So that's a big figure, but it's an estimated figure, and it's only an in-house figure. And then medical equipment needs. I wanted to pass this out just to give you a kind of a glimpse of what other communities, the average is about $260,000 to $280,000 a year, that other counties contribute to their communities. And this is only a small, I don't think Madison County is on here. Madison County actually gives out $800,000, 400 to Sheridan and 400 to Ennis. So this is out of the realm of what counties actually do participate with their healthcare facilities. But our equipment needs, we're going through a process right now to figure out what other hospitals our size, with the closeness to other communities like Helena and Bozeman, what other community health centers are doing in the way of medical needs and equipment needs. We don't want to be an outlier, different, way different from other communities, but we also want to be competitive and provide the services to the people in the community, and at the same time, services that will be paid for, not services that would have to be subsidized. So we're looking at all sorts of things that we may be able to help grow the services to people here and have them paid for. Many of the things that we're looking at will be given to us probably through grants. We don't want to go forward without a very active grant program. And most of the major medical equipment that hospitals our size around the state have been acquired through a grant process. So yet we've got some things like the possibility of an ultrasound in the ER so that we can quickly determine specifics. The possibility of more diagnostic equipment and imaging equipment on the hospital premise. All these things we're looking at. So those are the dollars that we've outlined here are dollars that are going to help us promote and bring our hospital to a level that is comparable to other hospitals around the state. So that's a kind of a quick synopsis of where we've started. We started almost closed in the first week of November. The community spoke loudly. The contributions made over Christmas time and the contributions that were made by people throughout the community it's just incredible, and it really caught people's attention statewide. I think it's important now how we're going to progress. Have we turned the corner? We've actually contributed to the net bottom line, and the dollars that we have in cash reserve right now are not being depleted. They're being added to on a monthly basis. So there's a net gain. So I think that it's fairly safe to say that the hospital is turning the corner. I'm not going to say it's turned the corner, but we're making a lot of headway. The medical staff is working closely with us in lots of different ways, and everybody's working hard on it. So with that, there might be some questions or thoughts, but if you, as the commissioners, could see it, I think a lot of other people will be watching to see how the support is given to the hospital, and I don't think we're asking comparatively anything much more than other community and counties have contributed. So with that, I'll just open up for questions or comments.
Board members?
I don't have any at this time.
Paul?
A comment, at one point in time, several years ago, I know that St. Peter's Hospital in Helena was taking $1 million a year out of Townsend area in healthcare. I would sure like to see us be able to get some of that back, retain some of that instead of it. Like, we aren't gonna retain it all. We aren't ever going to be able to do heart surgery here. But we can do a lot of things diagnostically and treatment-wise that are going to help retain a good share of that money. I'm for Townsend.
Other comments? Tim?
Madam Chair, Commission members, members of the public, I've been following this issue for several years myself, and I'd like to read this and then submit this for the record regarding the request from the board and the issues that are at hand, if you would indulge me, please. It is highly unpopular to oppose providing funding for education and health care in any community With costs in both services continually rising with no end in sight, it is reasonable to state that we need to take a close look at what this request from the Broadwater Health Board, although unpopular, is important to state some facts. The proposal by the Broadwater Health Board extends the hand for another $450,000 for immediate relief. This bailout of the health care comes at a time when taxpayers are still trying to balance the budget in their homes, trying to understand the new mandates that are going to be affecting and on behalf of Obamacare. Many companies are already cutting back to part-time positions due to these costs. The end result here is less income for the board to support a tax base that we are currently under. It was stated in the original loan and funding process that there would be a problem come this fall. With reduced revenue anticipated, it is not even into that projected time period, and the taxpayers of Broadwater County are now being asked to hand out more. Remember, not long ago, the citizens of Broadwater County clearly said no to an additional levy funding request. Now to come in the back door through requesting PILT is like a slap in the face to the taxpayers, because PILT is tax dollars. The proposal is somewhat contradictory in that it states the continued revenue and operation of the three entities in the healthcare in Townsend are doing well and growing. But then after the bed of roses is laid, the reality check comes and we need to, or want, over $2 million as per the program that was handed out here. As one citizen of Broadwater County, it is my position that Broadwater County cannot and should not try to compete with St. Peter's Hospital in Helena or the Deaconess Hospital in Bozeman. The costs need to compete with those entities are enormous. In case you did not get the memo, the federal government is broke. Therefore, they will not be anytime soon funding our tax dollars returning our tax dollars to help fund such a venture. Operating an urgent care center with joint facilities, both public and private, to house nursing home residents makes a lot more sense. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tim. Other comments?
Bill Kearns from Townsend. I'm a member of the Montana Facility Finance Authority. We do a lot of work all over Montana, financing hospitals and clinics. And I can again assure you, as this points out, almost every small county supports their hospitals through tax dollars. So this is not an unusual request. And I just would like you to think about that if you did not have a hospital here, number one, you'd lose the 60 jobs that it creates. But more importantly, you would have to fund some kind of an ambulance service, probably to the tune of $300,000 or $400,000 a year. And that would be tax money just to get your citizens to these other facilities. So you might think about that when you're looking at this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
With regard to that request for the $50,000 forgiveness, would you consider forbearance, putting it on the back end of the loan?
Our cash demands now are now. And so I think it would help probably the center the most now, if that's what you're asking. And just another point of clarification. The dollars that are listed out there are, you're right, it's around $2 million. These are, again, in-house estimates that we think are gonna probably be needed in order to provide a high-level quality service over the next 1 to 3 years. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight. And many of those dollars are gonna have to be funded by grant dollars that we apply for. Probably won't go ahead with those services without a major grant application and approval for that process. So what we want to get before you here is what is potentially the cost, so you have an idea. And we do want to be back to just share with you how we're doing on a quarterly basis, so you have a, from the horse's mouth discussion financially. And I've instructed our CFO, we need to get the financials over to you also, so you're seeing the financials on a monthly basis.
That would be good.
The economic value of the services and the jobs and keeping that commerce here and providing that service here is probably invaluable. I don't know that you can put a price on it. But it does help promote this whole county. And give you a good example, I had a phone call just last week from a person in Wyoming who was a ranch manager, but was looking for a place that they wanted to light. And person happened to be involved with EMS services, and man was he asking tough questions. But the whole gist of it is, are you gonna have good medical services in that county? So that if I come there and later end up retiring, is this a place that economically I wanna be? And I just, this is a beautiful area, and I think we can be in a place to recruit, if you would, clean industry and support this population base with the medical community that we have. It's a great, I think, economic driver for us.
Let me pose a question. Just close your eyes and imagine for a minute. The hospital's closed. We don't have those 89 or 90 jobs, whatever it is over there. Okay? What effect does that have on the other businesses in town? Now, how long do you think it's going to be before people start moving out of this area instead of into it? And how long do you think it's going to be before St. Peter's Hospital or the hospital in Bozeman establishes a clinic here and takes more money out of the community? Now, we have $300,000 or $400,000 a year to provide ambulance service so that if somebody mashes a hand, they can get to an emergency room right away. We have a loss of 90 well-paying jobs. We have a loss of how many other businesses in town? We have a loss in faith in the community and a loss of population in the community. And we have an additional drain on our community economy. All things that I think we have to weigh very carefully when we make this decision. And there are naysayers who say, we can't afford it, we shouldn't spend it, God, the ceiling is going to fall in. But I think we have to take a good, long look at what we are really considering here.
Well, and I think it not only affects the hospital, it affects the drugstore, you know as well as I do. And besides that, it's a retirement community. There's a lot more people my age and older than the younger ones. And if they come here and they get ready to buy a house, the first thing they're gonna ask is, what kind of medical services do you have? Oh, we don't have any. Oh, well, thank you then. No, they're not interested in living here if we don't have medical services.
My wife and I did this very thing. We traveled all over the western part of the United States, and we were looking for a place we wanted to retire. We looked on the west coast, from Portland clear to the border. We looked in Alaska. We looked in Montana. We looked at Choteau. We looked at Conrad. We looked at Augusta. We looked at west of the mountains. And we finally settled on Townsend, on Broadwater County. Why? We have a hospital and 2 doctors. We have a drugstore. We have a grocery store. We have all of the things that we need right here. Right here. It's a beautiful place to live with a beautiful bunch of people.
Brad, I couldn't see who was back. I could see a hand. I'm sorry.
The question I want to ask is whose responsibility or whose duty is it to care for those people in this county who cannot afford to pay for their medical care. You know, we are a caring community. We take care of our own. The hospital has been doing this for the past several years, which is one of the biggest reasons that the hospital has struggled so much for the past few years. And when you look at other counties that help support the hospital, and the hospitals do well, I won't say they flourish, but they are able to keep up and provide the services that the community needs. Now, you know, as a member of this community, I feel a responsibility and to some degree a duty that we have to take care of the people that can't afford to pay for their own medical services. And when we put that burden on the hospital, we penalize the entire community's level of services. And if you think in terms of it's a county responsibility, it's not necessarily the hospital responsibility, but the hospital does it. And they've been doing it without compensation. And this $400,000 a year that we come up short every year when we send out the bills is the thing that makes the single biggest thing that makes the difference. And you require us to provide the care, and frankly, it never occurs to us not to provide the care. But we need a partner to help us fund this. And the only place there is the city and the county, because these are the city and the county residents. And the responsibility falls in this room as much as it falls anyplace. And I'm sorry, Tim, but this is something that this community has a responsibility and a duty to do.
But last November, the voters spoke very loudly that they did not want additional mill levies and additional taxes.
And do you think
against
that
them.
makes it okay?
Letters.
There were a lot of voters that said absolutely not.
Right.
First, identify the voters that said no on the far end of the counties. That's where the no votes came from. The ones that already go to Helena and the ones that already go to Bozeman, who didn't have a stake in this hospital.
And that makes them less of a voter?
No, it just means that they were self-serving.
Barbara?
But that doesn't change our duty. You are the government
Robert
that are
Busher,
responsible here.
member of the district, the Broadwater County District Board, but I'm speaking as a person and not as a member of that board. I'm totally in support of this. I've lived here for many more years than I want to count. I'm 86 years old. I was married when I was 20 and came to this county. All my family have been served with medical services in this county. We've paid our bills, and we've been able to do that. But I have neighbors who, without any reason except the fact that they could not afford, they worked, you know. We've got a lot of working poor in this community as well. And I too feel the need, the duty, the responsibility to help those who are less fortunate than I am. I have another meeting at 12 o'clock in Helena, and if I'm not gonna meet some of our esteemed patrolmen on the way, I have to leave. But thanks a lot. I'm totally in support of this request.
Thank you very much, Bobby. John?
You know, my name's John Wright. Looking at this whole picture, when you open up the doors like the hospital's done, there's outsiders that will come in to get this kind of service. And we've seen a little touch of it this past summer with the rainbow people. But nevertheless, you know, everybody is responsible for their own care, their own doings. And the people, anybody right now today that is so indigent that they cannot pay anything on their doctor or hospital bills, it's only because they never did it to start with. Now, why are we responsible? Because all of us here, I doubt if there's anybody in here that hasn't paid into the system, Medicare, whatever, to take care of these problems. Why should we put ourselves in a position where it taxes us out of our home and our property to support people that didn't take care of themselves? Now, that is not being considered by the individuals that's speaking out in favor of this. We did as voters, one and all, voted not to give it anymore. Now, are we going to go past that? Are you commissioners going to go against us citizens that said no? And that no means no. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
I don't think you can take the last mill levy as an indication of the feelings of Broadwater County. I'll remind you, we have passed mill levies, and they just voted no to that particular mill levy at that time. That is not a vote meaning no, don't ever support the hospital.
Well, let's have another vote.
Thank you. Bob?
Elaine, Bob Brastrup, John Wright, you're wrong.
No, I'm right. I'm not wrong.
I am part of the Lions Club, and this past month, we have committed over $800 to paying for eyeglasses and hearing aids for people that couldn't otherwise afford them. And they are people that have paid their bills in the past and are at the stage now that they cannot. They're not people that have just gone on and accepted welfare all the time. At least this group has not. You know, there's a person out here that lives in Broadwater County part-time. He's a property owner out here, has a farm. Had occasion to go to the hospital recently simply because his wife insisted that he go. He didn't feel very well. Went to the hospital, was diagnosed, was treated, and sings praises for this little hospital here as being one of the best in the community that he's ever been around. And he's here 4 months, maybe 5 months out of the year. I'm sure he would come and give you a testimonial as to what ought to be done with stuff that's here. We all pay some taxes on things that, you know, we take a look at things and maybe don't get a benefit from. We support the airport, you know, and what does the airport do for me? I'm not a pilot, okay? I don't fly out of it, okay? But we support the airport. I think this is one of the things that the hospital is one that we need to help with. And Tim mentioned things with Obamacare. I will tell you that because of Obamacare, my health insurance premium went down and it paid claims that it never paid before. I can afford to pay a little bit more to help out the hospital.
Well, another thing, if you wanted to say about people using something or not using something but having to pay. How many dollars do we all pay on schools? And how many of us have kids in school anymore? It's a senior community, it flat out is. I have used the school system, we put 4 kids club through here. And I would speak its high praises. And I'm still paying today, and I'm not complaining. Child.
Just one comment in regards to the vote. I'm gonna take some responsibility in how that vote may have happened, in the sense that I don't think we really had time to tell our story. We, you know, on a $100,000 home, this is not agriculture land, but a $100,000 home, that's $20 a month. And
$20 a year.
I'm sorry, $20 a year, and we didn't get it all figured out, but on a property with pivots, it was nearly somewhere between $3 to $5 per acre, and I don't know that we really got to tell our story. We were rushed with a closure and reopening, and we may come back for another vote on the mill levy side of this, because of the value that brings to this county. It's just incomprehensible to me that potential development, economic development, healthcare improvement isn't supported, even if you live at one end or the other of the county. So, you know, I don't know that we really got to share the story, and I think there had been an awful lot of bad press, you know, legitimately about the closure. People didn't want to bet on a losing horse. Well, it's not losing, it's turning the corner. Maybe it's the first stretch of the 1.25 miles for a horse race, but we're not far away. And this is a great opportunity to support a huge economic driver for this county. Even though it's a $400,000 loss in debt, there's so many more positives to the overall county, not in just economics, but it's the first stop on that emergency room, and it will mean that golden hour of whether or not someone survives. And we've had it this last weekend. We have it at least once a month. It's a huge positive driver for our community.
I worry about the people. You have 90 employees over there. They're gonna have to go someplace where they can get a job. And they won't be staying here.
Well, we're talking with employers, and we're gonna have to come back and talk to the county about their employees. But the interesting part about that is you talk to Gray Tech, and just about 80% of their employees live right here in Broadwater County, and yes, they want us to help them on a wellness program. The school system is embarking on a wellness program, and you know, there's many dollars that can be saved positively on insurance premiums if we get a good wellness program packaged together that Broadwater Health Center can help promote. So we really want to be that service, that healthcare expert that people in this area turn to, and we help lower costs and insurance premiums, and help lower the effects of bad health, and support the whole process of better health. So we're there, and we want to remain that, and we want to remain healthy, and I think you want a vibrant, healthy medical center as well. And so we really appreciate your consideration as a commissioner board. I apologize for not being here on a quarterly basis. We will be. And as far as another vote, we'd love to share more data about the overall cost of a levy that we would ask for. It just, you know, unfortunately, as taxpayers, we have one ability to say no here locally, and it just seems like the state and federal gets off however they want to spend it. But this really, truly is the best investment we possibly can make in our community.
Sorry.
Hi, Bob Saxby. You guys know I own the Mustang. I'm also the president of the Chamber of Commerce. That hospital for my motel is worth about $10,000 a year with people that stay there that are going in one form or another, either to work there or to be serviced there or to visit there. And we've talked about it quite a bit in our meetings about this, and individually. And if you've ever owned a business, you know every time you turn around, Uncle Sam or the state or some organization that says I have to pay them for doing something, or that I have to have a certain type of insurance, or I have to have this, and every month the money goes out just about as fast as it comes in. If you take this away from the businesses in town, you're gonna see a lot of people shutting down, because that's what it means to businesses. Now, you can scoff at it if you want, but it's the god-awful truth. And if you don't believe it, we got a meeting at 12:30 over at Penny's Breakfast Station, and you can talk to some of the businessmen yourself where we have our meeting.
Thank you, Bob. Deb?
I'd just like to address the group here as someone who is in a position of not being able to pay their medical bills. I was in a car accident in 2003, and due to a series of misdiagnoses, which weren't done here, I had a crack in my skull, and I didn't find out about it until last November. Well, since 2003, it has affected my ability to work and my ability to pursue my career. And in 2008, I passed out. From that time on, I had some dizzy spells. They swore it was my heart, had something to do with my heart. I said, no, there's something wrong in my head. And they said, oh, it's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with your head. Well, in December of this last year, before that, but the bottom line is, I developed a CSF leak through my nose and went to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. And thank goodness he was willing to listen and work with me, and found out that it was a CSF leak. And anyway, to make a long story short, I ended up in Salt Lake City with brain surgery in February. Came back, had some more difficulties with doctors understanding what was going on. Ended up back in Salt Lake City in May to repair the CSF leak. And since that time, it has affected my ability, since February, my ability to make money has been lacking, to say it. So, and during all this time, I was able to go back to Carroll and finish my accounting degree. And I am to the point now where I'm hoping to sit for the CPA exam in October. But it's not like I just sloughed off paying my bills. There were things that happened in my life that made it beyond reason for me to be able to pay my bills. And still to this day, I'm sitting at $50,000 worth of doctor bills that there's no way I can touch it, from the work, and my husband and I both messed because he had to take off work to go take me down there, and the work I've missed, and so forth and so on. But that's coming, so it's definitely needed a way. Now, there are people that abuse the system, there are people that run to the emergency room when they don't need to, those kind of things. But there are people in our communities that circumstances come up where they do need the help, and they do need that facility, to be there and provide those cares. I myself have my issues with doctors, and I've done most of my medical care myself with natural means and things. But when it comes down to something like that, you can't. I had a meningocele, which is a herniated protrusion of the meninges, which is the thing that circles your brain, growing down through that crack in my skull. And it created a cyst that was growing down into my nasal passage. And, that was something I couldn't deal with naturally. I had to depend on the medical profession to deal with. And, I don't know, there's the way our legal system is set up or whatever. I can't prove that this happened during the car accident. I don't know any other way it could have happened. But, that was 10 years ago. So now, but just to make a point that, it's not always that people are just sloughing not to pay their bills. Things happen, life happens, and you get in a situation where it's difficult.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Don Thompson. I've been listening to this, I've been paying attention to the issue of the hospital's needs and other issues, since it's become a very, very large issue here in the county. Let me go on record personally. We need the hospital, flat out, no question, in my mind. It's gotta be here. Without the hospital, we're looking at trying to get to Bozeman or Helena, and that's just not gonna not gonna make it. We need the local services, flat out. What bothers me, and what I would like to see, is an accurate business plan that shows us where the end is. What do we have to do to get from wherever we are, however that's defined, to the point of profitability, to the point where the hospital is standing on its own? That's what I wanna hear. How do we get from here? I don't care about how we got here. You know, we've got a lot of funding issues with the hospital, fine. I didn't create those. What I'm interested in is how we get from where we are to where we need to be. And what are the mileposts along the way that we can all look at and say, oh, we got this done, oh, we got that done, oh, this is happening. That's what I wanna hear. I wanna hear a positive approach. I'm tired of the whining that I've heard. I hate to use that term, but it's accurate.
I don't know if you got a copy of this, but this is the
Thank you.
beginning of that. It's
Okay,
the
I've read
begin-
that.
It's the beginning of the business plan. I tell you what, you're exactly right. We were in survival mode for the last 6 to 7 months, and we didn't know if we were gonna make it. But we are turning the corner now, and we are at a point where we can really seriously look at the future and begin to develop that business plan. And that business plan is not something that just happens overnight. We need to have real live experts on mechanical and electrical engineers. We need to have the architects to come in and take a look at what needs to be done. We went through a strategic plan the first week we were here. The board has invited many different people to come to a strategic planning process to follow that up August 13th. That's gonna become another basis plan for us to move into a very sophisticated business plan. We're right on target with that. And we're launching a community assessment, health assessment survey within the next couple of weeks. Help me out, is the next couple of weeks, Patsy? And that's gonna give us a fine tuning of what the community health needs are here, so we can pinpoint where we need to spend those precious dollars. An interesting fact that's come about even in this discussion is, guess what county in the state of Montana has the highest accident rate? Work accident rate. Broadwater County. They're somewhere between, I think the figure was 78% accident rate versus an average of about 56% accident rate. Don't ask me how to actually describe that data, but it was pretty alarming. And what that tells us is that there's a lot we could do as a health center in working with employers. You know, when you think about it, we've got lumber, we've got all the highest accident professions listed right here: farming, forestry. All of that is high accident rate. So what can we be doing to help better educate the workers to maintain better safety? So I just think there's a lot of value that we're gonna bring back once we get totally around the corner. And a business plan is absolutely totally what we've been trying to assemble once we get past the survival mode.
Elaine, I think, and answered partly to Don, small rural hospitals, I don't think will ever be profitable on their operations. They're always going to depend on help from grants, from the community, from taxes, from foundations. They're just not gonna be profitable. They aren't. Even the large, big city hospitals, they have foundations and grant programs, taxes. It's a fact of life. If you want a hospital, you have to pay for it. And there are many pieces of the pie to come in there and pay for it. And one of them is taxes. Like it or not, they're there. You have to have them. We will never, I don't think this hospital has ever been profitable, really profitable on its own operations. When you add in all the foundation money, that's buying equipment for us, help from the mill levy that we've had going on, $150,000 a year, All of those go into the mix and help it. But honest operations alone, you can't ask Kyle to give me a business plan where we're gonna turn a profit. I don't think you can. It's just not realistic. It won't happen.
Bill?
And I want to remind you, my comment again, as you look at that list, almost all small counties today, even with well-defined plans, they've been in business a long time, still need some kind of support, just as Hugh said.
John?
You know, I think there's something that's being looked over completely here by all of the people involved or supporting the hospital. Not that I don't, but the hospital can never fulfill its absolute requirements to be a hospital, that we could get any grants, any money out of the federal government, because it's not a AAA rated building. It was done in the beginning to make it cheap, and it can't be changed except tear it down and build a new building, and that's going to cost millions. I hear nobody talking about this. The federal government cannot grant that our operation here in this county because of this building's deficiency, and that's a fact.
Yes, Kyle?
We're probably the most surveyed hospital in the state of Montana. We've been surveyed about 5 times in the last 6 months. And every single survey on the medical equipment, on the mechanical and electrical, has passed in flying colors every survey. So that's not true.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the structure, the building itself.
The structure has been passed with flying colors
By the federal?
every single time. The
No,
state
by the state.
The state represents the federal government.
You're talking over me, so
No,
I want
I'm
to
not.
talk over him.
It's real clear. The state represents
The
the
federal government-
when they go through on a survey. We've been surveyed 5 times to get reopened and open. And every single time, if in fact the mechanical and electrical, even though it's 30 and 40 years old, it's been it's been maintained very, very well, but probably will need replacement, has passed with flying colors with the state and federal review. And you can look on a public record. Don't shake your head, sir.
I am, because
you can
you're
look on
wrong.
a public record, and it will tell you exactly if there were any deficiencies on that mechanical and electrical. So you're erroneous.
I'm talking
in that
about
discussion.
the infrastructure, the building of the building
That's
is
what I'm talking
done
about, too.
frame,
I
and
am
it's not
talking about
loud.
Yes, it is.
Now, only on
It houses-
state or county status.
Sorry, yes, it does. You're wrong.
No.
John, I would ask you to go over to Kyle's office and look at those.
I don't
surveys
need to. I saw the building being constructed. It's flimsy, it's frame, and it's not a AAA fire-rated building.
Yes, it is.
Period.
All right, Bill?
I'm Bill Upthegrove. I'm on the hospital board. Just to address a little to their comment, for my living, what I do is survey buildings, especially hospitals. Our hospital is aged. It has equipment that is past its useful life. I would point to the pneumatic system in it. I would point to the constant volume reheat system we have. We operate, but it should be upgraded to the point that they're discussing. The building itself might not be the most expensive building, but it is usable. It needs care. I wanted, though, to address a little bit about what Don asked about the strategic plan, the long-term planning at the hospital. When I got on the board in November, since then I've learned a terrific amount about the operation of a hospital. From a business perspective, the income side is difficult because we're only paid what those patients can pay. Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance people. We can affect our revenues by adding additional services, and that's some of what Kyle is talking about. Adding the right things for Broadwater County that can help us make additional revenues. At the same time, the costs, even though and I can say I now see them, we're trying to manage as best we can. It's just hard to get those revenues to cover those costs. And that's seeing I get to see all the hospitals in the state. We're very similar to these other hospitals. They need help They need care, and if we're to lose the hospital, it would be a real challenge to this community. So, speaking in favor, but knowing I'm on the board.
Thank you. Yeah, we're way over time.
No, sorry.
And I've got people waiting out in the hall. I'd like to wrap this up. I think we can take this under advisement. I think we need to, and get back to you. But thank you
Appreciate
very
your
much for
time.
coming. You know, and I guess with Trudy sitting back here, you know, and listening to what Don Thompson said and different ones, I would ask you to start putting an article in the paper. Maybe just go sit down and talk with Trudy.
We have been,
You know, I'm sure
we
she's
have
more
been
than
putting
willing.
articles in the paper.
We meet regularly.
Good, keep it up. Okay. We're gonna
Thank you.
go on to the next one. Thank you. Come on in, Jenny. And crew. Where is? Yes, please.
I think she just went back to her office there. Just a second ago. Here she is.
Yeah, pretty quick, thank you.
Sorry, we're late.
That's all right.
Very interesting discussion.
First of all, I have not received any bids for the engineering services, so my suggestion would be to run it for another 2 weeks. The
I
commissioners
would say so.
Excuse me, can you speak up, Nicole, please?
Can't hear you.
The engineering services RFP, no one has responded to, so I'm going to run it for another 2 weeks. So I will post it for this Thursday and next Thursday, and put this back on the agenda the following Monday, whatever that Monday will be, I'll do it later for scheduling.
It's the 17th.
Oh, we have it right here.
Okay, if you have it, then we'll just schedule it now, if you don't mind.
You bet. So 2 weeks from today, be the, okay, why doesn't this calendar have it? There you go, 19th? 1:45?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
So that one aside. Examining land surveyor position, I have received 2 sealed bids. They've been in my office. Do you want me to open
No,
them?
go ahead.
Okay. I also have scoring sheets available for today. I wasn't certain if you wanted to go through the scoring process today and award these bids. Scheduling is a little bit behind, but this first one is from Donald M. Schaber of Pine Street in Townsend, Montana. I'll keep one. Pass it around. Let's make some more copies of the order sheets. The second one is from Stuart Nash, also of Townsend, Montana. And for him, I have one copy here, along with the cover letter. So I'll pass this one around if you want to make only this one, or if you want to go around and make copies.
What I need to do that.
Thank you.
Stuart.
I knew what you were asking. Just be entertained.
are 3 scoring sheets that basically outline what you're going to be scoring on.
We have a meeting on Wednesday. I'm wondering if we couldn't, do this then, so that we have a little time to look over and really read these. Or I'm happy to come back this afternoon and do it, whatever works for you guys, but I would like some time to read over these and really absorb them, rather than just, making a snap decision. Or working meeting next Monday, whatever works for you guys is fine by me.
Yeah, I think we need more time to go through this, too.
I do. To absorb it. When works best for you, Nicole?
Either time. Wednesday afternoon or morning. I'm out of the office Wednesday morning.
Okay, it's 10:30 Wednesday morning that we're scheduled, so next Monday.
Okay.
Which would be the 12th. 2 o'clock, work? That work for you? All right. What do you think, half an hour?
I think a half an hour would be good.
Okay.
Allow some time for discussion if you have it. Making your copies and scoring sheets for the MASH proposal.
Perfect.
Okay. I'll run this one for 2 more weeks and just see what happens from there. While I'm here, I also want you all to know that we're going to be holding a joint land use study informational meeting for the public, the commissioners, anyone that's interested. Joint land use study is a project I've been working on with the military, Lewis and Clark County, and the city of Helena, as well as the city of Townsend. Basically, it's for the military installation in Limestone Hills training site, and how it's going to affect neighboring landowners, or also how neighboring landowners are going to affect the military installation. So this meeting's at 7 o'clock at the library community room.
Tonight.
No, I'm sorry, Wednesday. This coming Wednesday. And it's scheduled from 7 to 8:30. So there'll be a presentation beginning at 7, and then basically a question-answer open house after the presentation. If you have questions or would like more information, so you can stop by my office.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where did you say that was? The library classroom?
Library community room.
Community room, okay.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Kim Ravendall.
Excuse me, I just wanted to bring, this is the water that's coming out of our sink upstairs that people are wanting us to drink, so I just thought I'd bring that up down and share with you.
Sounds like I can grow a garden.
Wow. So I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
I think the public should see this.
Anybody that wants to see, come on down. But I wouldn't advise drinking it.
Elaine, the worst part of that water is not what you're seeing.
You're probably right about that, John. It's what you don't see.
See? Pass it around.
It almost looks like she drank it out of the toilet.
Are you ready, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir. Lovely. And thank you for waiting until I got back.
Welcome.
It's good to be back.
Commissioner Slipka, in case you folks don't have a copy with you or handy of the resolution we talked about at the last working meeting, there's a current copy of that. I will right away apologize, I didn't make enough copies for everybody in Albion. We're anticipating, even knowing how many copies I have. This is the same one. One has just a signature line cut off the bottom. The other copies are just prepared for it. So if you wouldn't mind passing them around for those folks, if you get them as far as we can, so people can follow along. I'm not going to take too much of your time this morning. This afternoon, Madam Chair. This just is a kind of a follow-up from our earlier discussions. We held a working meeting. We took the draft that was originally submitted back in February to this commission for consideration, and we revised that and brought that down to a one-page resolution that's been passed around. There's been several substantial discussions both in the public and in this meeting room regarding this proposal. And bottom line is the process has been moving forward as designed, and we are now very happy that Commissioner Gravely is back, and we're looking forward to being able to properly schedule this matter before the commission for a hearing, to have the citizens on both sides of this issue officially weigh in and give a substantial input on the reason and the purpose and the design of this whole effort. To go outside of that at this point in time would be, I guess you could say repetitive. Not trying to say we need to, I guess I hate the word censor, but to limit an open discussion on the matter now would be repetitious, because that would be the purpose of the hearing, for everybody to be able to weigh in with their concerns and be able to bring forward the process. The resolution that I submit to you today for consideration will be made available, of course, to the public for review. And then if we can, Commissioner Gravely, Chair, I would respectfully request that if we can look into our crystal ball and that everything is favorably with you and your issues, that you can comfortably schedule a hearing on this matter, which is where we were at the last time that we visited on this. So that is my request today, to bring this out, put it on the table, and get it scheduled for a hearing. It is not a waste of time. It is a process that affords us to look at our constitutional rights and take a really close look at them. So, Madam Chair, if you would, I'd respectfully request that we move forward at this time and schedule a hearing.
2 weeks.
And that will work with the advertisement process and giving everybody a chance to look at the actual document and weigh in on the matter. If that would be acceptable, that's pretty much where we would like to see the commission go, just so we can have an up or down vote on this matter and move on.
I'm opposed to it. I think that we've got an awful lot of county business to be done. We're in the middle of budget season. We have visited an ordinance, we've visited 3 resolutions. As far as being in support of the Second Amendment, I'm solidly on record as being in support. The Rod and Gun Club submitted a request for a grant not too long ago and requested of this commission a letter of support, and I wrote that. When they went in front of the trust board for that grant, that letter was quoted in requesting that grant. We've heard an awful lot from the public about taking time out to support one of the amendments versus all the others. I think it's a waste of time. We've had a working meeting. I personally have spent well over 20 hours on this. Again, we are in the budget season. If it is the board's decision to schedule more on this, then that's fine. It will be, I'm opposed to it, so it would be a 2-1 decision.
It looks to me like
2 o'clock is available on the 19th.
Franklin.
Do you wanna go ahead with the hearing, Elaine, and get it out of the way, or? I don't wanna pressure anything.
Well, we're so pressed for budget stuff as it really bothers me.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I may offer, if the concern is overriding your time that you have to spend on the budget, We are not, I must reiterate, from the very first time, including the working meetings, that we've had to try and refine this to a palatable proposal. We are not shoving this down the throat of the people or the commission. We are more than amenable to step back and at your convenience to schedule this. We have been a long time on this. We have spent a couple hours in meetings and talked about this. The last one was the working meeting. There has been some public comments that can be brought forward and discussed in an open process. That's what we're looking for. So if you would like to postpone this again for the time being to make it more available for your agendas and not be conflicting with the important business of the county, we have no problem with that.
Okay.
I will just say that we would like to respectfully request time before the board with a hearing to make an official decision on the matter, rather than just throwing things back and forth, not getting anywhere.
Well, that would be good. I would like to postpone it, to be honest. I mean, I think we're up to our eyebrows, and maybe I'm the only one up to my eyebrows.
I agree with you. At least 4 weeks, I'd say.
Can we,
after the 1st of September, I would think.
Madam Chair, if we could just put this on as a item for discussion for right now, so it doesn't get
I'm fine with
dropped.
that.
And then as we get farther in, we can periodically bring this up for discussion and look at the agenda and see what we have for scheduling.
That would be fine. I just want to get through the budget stuff first.
And I can certainly appreciate that, Madam Chair.
Okay, let's put it on items for discussion, and then we'll go for legal.
Yeah, give the message to Tammy.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Madam
all the
Chair.
work you've done on it.
Thank you, Commissioners, and thank you, folks, for bearing with us to move forward.
Is Jenny out there with the COS?
No, I'm with
What's
that
his name?
gentleman.
What's his name?
Now, Jenny, come on down.
No, I don't have anything.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't this time. Nope, I just came in as a visiting person.
We're glad you did.
Thank you.
It's always good to see you.
Chair, I have something that I would like to give the commission.
Come on in.
These are the certified values from the state that are due today. I put them in this file. There's everything in there. I also sent you emails. If you don't get your email, please make sure you call me, because I did send it before I came down. So if you don't have it when you get home, it's because I spelled something wrong. So, and I'll just give those to you guys.
How are they looking?
We're up from last year, so. Any questions? Like I said, I put my, my phone number if you need it, so. All right, you guys, thank you. That's
Thank
all
you
I
very
got.
much.
We've been working with Lewis and Clark County on, with our budget, and, she's been down here quite a bit, and then, of course, through email. There's been an awful lot of work, and of course, Lewis and Clark County and Jefferson County are done with their budgets. They completed them about a month ago. And there's a formula that they've been using to plug in the consumer price index, last year's totals, population, a bunch of different relative factors. And they came up with an estimate valuation of $3.5 million for our valuation this year. The actual valuation came in at 347, so it was pretty darn close. So, just interesting, I think. I've been making copies of all the budget paperwork we've been getting and putting it in our mailboxes. Do you want me to just go ahead and make 4 copies of this? Debbie Kelly's been kind of heading up the budget. I'll give her the other copy, and then we'll keep another one in the office.
That would be great.
Okay.
Now, I think Sarah, are you here?
I'm here on, I'm John Jackson, I'm
All
here
right,
requesting.
come on up, please.
Before you get started, Colonel, a number of comments have been made in the last couple of weeks from EMT, fire, of search and rescue, wanting to know what if there's an emergency, what are we gonna do? Currently, the sheriff has said in writing that she would be more than happy to step in, but if there's an emergency, she's gonna be working the emergency. The colonel called, and just by happenstance, got me on the phone here in the courthouse last week, and I did ask him to come and talk to us and kind of give us information on what a DES coordinator does, his background, and just kind of educate the board as to what the position is and why it's important to EMTs, fire, search and rescue, commissioners, citizens, the gamut. So thank you for coming.
Thank you, appreciate it very much. I'm Jonathan Jackson, I go by John Jackson, and as a kind of a quick introduction, native Montana, go back several years, both on my dad and mom's side. And recently, 2 years ago, retired from the Montana National Guard and the Army National Guard, after a little over 39-year career service with the Army and the Army Guard. Part of my time in the National Guard was the what was called Director of Military Support. I'm sorry, apologize.
You know, if you're gonna hear tomorrow, that means you buy treats.
And I would be more than happy to do that, because I should have turned this off, and I sincerely apologize. It's off now. My apologies. In some realms, it's only $10, so. In some realms, it's a whole lot more.
No,
Anyway,
just teasing.
I was Director of Military Support, and what I did in that capacity, I was the individual that coordinated all National Guard support to civil authorities. In other words, I was a pivot person, so anytime a emergency, disaster, training, whatever it was, involved National Guard in support of the state in a declaration of an emergency or disaster, I was the individual that coordinated the Guard support to the state at whatever level, county, city, statewide. In fact, in 2003, we were in support of over 10 incidents throughout Montana with wildland firefighting. We had over 600 National Guard stay active duty, and it was my office, me personally, was overseeing all those operations. So I'm very familiar with DES, Disaster Emergency Services, and I ran the National Guard EOC, which is side by side the state DES EOC, for nothing but a better name. They called theirs the State Emergency Coordination Center, SECC. But anyway, I was asked to come in and give you kind of a scenario, and I talked with the commissioner about it. She asked me to kind of go over a quick, kind of a 101 on what DES, Disaster Emergency Services, is, and so I'll try and keep this as concise as I can. I just kind of went online to the state website for the state DES, and wrote down really quick what their mission, vision, and goals were. And then now and then I got a bunch of things that I know about disaster emergency service and responding, because I've been there. You know, they're the lead agency to coordinate comprehensive emergency management for Montana, i.e. at the county level, the coordinator would be the lead person to coordinate emergency responses within the county. Each county has one. Some are full-time, like in Lewis and Clark, and some counties are part-time. Some counties, they have maybe one person might come in 1 or 2 days, or maybe have another job in the county, then they do them together. Depends on the county's resources, size of the county, etc. For example, counties like Garfield County, Weebo County, really wouldn't require as much as maybe Lewis and Clark, Gallatin, Yellowstone, Flathead, etc. Vision basically is to build partnerships, integrate phases of emergency management, risk analysis, and leverage mitigation. Their goal is to ensure comprehensive emergency management programs, reduce human suffering and enhance recovery, and provide quality services. When it comes down to DES, and these are my comments now, the last thing you want to do at an emergency or a disaster is exchange business cards. In other words, you walk up, first time you meet the sheriff, first time you meet the chief of the police, first time you meet the county commissioner. You don't want that. You already want to have everything in place. You've already talked, you know each other by first name, you know how to get a hold of them 2 different ways, whatever it is. You don't want to be just meeting somebody when you have a disaster. You already want to be prepared. Okay, people will have confidence in us if we know we can respond, i.e. the county resources, the state resources, federal resources can respond as quickly as we can. We've all seen Katrina, we've seen wildland fires in Montana, and I actually was on the Toston Model fire here in Townsend back in 2000. So, and I do have a vested interest in Broadwater County. I do own private property in Broadwater County. Not very much, but I do own some, so I am a taxpayer in Broadwater County. but you need to educate the residents. Now, there's one big rule that we all adhere to, and that's what we call the 72-hour rule. When you try and educate your residents, the people that say the first 72 hours, be prepared to take care of yourself. You may not have local, county, state, federal response coming in. So, you try and educate them, but you all have to know that not everybody's gonna be that way. You're gonna have to do the best you can. But that's kind of the rule we train by. You have an emergency response plan. Now, I helped write the one for the National Guard. I will help work on the one for the state. It's quite an extensive plan, a lot of different departments to it as you respond to any type of emergency or disaster. Everything from how do you request resources to how do you mitigate when you're done. The whole plan is quite detailed, and you don't want a plan that's, you gotta take off and pull the dust off it when you're ready to go. You want a plan that candidly it's got coffee marks on it because you are headed out, put your coffee cup down, maybe it's got some tapes, got tabs. It's a working plan, it's a working document, continually being updated and addressed, amended, whatever it takes, and always, but it's there, and it's used, and it's publicized, people have it. You want to do a vulnerability assessment. I'm hoping the county has done a vulnerability assessment. What's the county most vulnerable to? What's the number one disaster that could happen in the county? Is it an earthquake? Is it a dam? Is it the Toston Dam? Is it wildland fires? And then the level of risk you're willing to take based on the vulnerabilities that you've identified. You want to identify all your key infrastructure. What's the most important key infrastructure in the county? Is it the hospital? Is it the fire station? Is it whatever you're gonna have, the Toston infrastructure as it identifies, and what level of risk are you willing to take as you manage your resources to respond to things that can happen? And communications. The key to emergency response is communication, communication, communication. You gotta have backups to your backup if at all possible. You gotta be able to talk to your people and know cell phone numbers, radio call signs, whatever it is you're gonna have. One of the issues we had with the National Guard, we would respond with all our outstanding communications. We could not talk to the civilians because the systems didn't work. We had to get resources from the civilians, we had to get radios from them to talk to them. Or we would put somebody with the local incident command and use them as a liaison to our command so we can coordinate responses. Communication is just critical, and that's something you just gotta continually work on. List of response resources, you gotta know all your contacts, your first responders, your law enforcement agencies, fire, medical, search and rescue, etc. Even comes down to knowing Joe, who has a dump truck and a backhoe, because that might be one of the most important people you have to bring in. Now granted, I'm National Guard, or I was National Guard, and people look to the Guard quite often for help. All we are was a state resource. We're one of many state resources. You have Department of Transportation, Department of Health and Human Services. We're just one of many departments up there in the state that can be brought to bear. We bring a lot of resources in. People have to understand we're not cheap. It's very, very expensive. So you have to know how much money you've got available. For example, let's say you want to get a helicopter to come in and look for somebody who's out there who may need to be rescued or recovered. And you say, well, we'll just call the National Guard and get a helicopter. It may not be the best choice because they are extremely expensive, like $4,000 to $7,000 an hour. So you have to know all these types, what other resources are available. And the Guard is the last resource in, and it's the first resource out. You gotta know the level of response as resources are made available. Now, granted, I apologize because I'm talking a lot about, because most of my knowledge is National Guard in reference to all this. But it is no different than, because you know who they are, they're your next door neighbor, your family, your friends, that's who they are, and that's what they do. Okay, you want viable, productive training. In other words, real scenarios. In other words, you have training that you bring the people together and you find out what happens if there is a train disaster here in town. And there's some linkage. Right now, there's a disaster down in Louisiana where they got 30 train cars that wrecked, and they got chemicals in the air. They said there's 100 families that are gonna be evacuated from their homes and be away from their homes for several days because of the chemicals. What do? It could happen right here in Townsend. You could have a train wreck and the whole town could maybe have to be evacuated because of chemicals in the air. What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? How are you gonna get the emergency response out? How are you gonna get people know? All the different things that have to be done and coordinated, and you can't be sitting there figuring it out when it happens. That's why you have an emergency response plan, and you train for it. You talk to the people, you bring it together, you plan different scenarios, and include everybody you can involved in it. But it also comes down to dollars, knowing how to get money in, because you can't always bring everybody in. Sometimes you gotta pay for some of this stuff. Not everybody has all the assets. And to work with your neighboring counties, mutual response, basically you have you have an agreement with the neighboring counties to share resources, how to get resources from the state, and then other resources outside the state level, and how all that works. Like I mentioned, mutually incident command or unity of command. In most cases, the incident commander on most responses in the area is probably the sheriff. That'll be the person who is in charge, i.e. that is the commander who makes the decisions on how things are going to work. But if, for example, let's say you have several things going on, you may have unity of command. In other words, two different levels of operation working together, unified to joint into making decisions on how resources are going to be utilized and where priorities go, what level of risk you're taking. You gotta know the federal and state laws. My last job in the National Guard, I was what was called the United States Property and Fiscal Officer. I was the officer who was judiciarily accountable for all federal money, federal property, and federal road property in the Montana Army and Air Guard. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. Coordinated all grant money, all money was me. I know federal fiscal law. I know how federal money works. I know how state money works. I know just, you have to understand it, and I know how logistics, I'm also a logistician. I know how logistics works. I know about managing logistics, I know about coordinating logistics, I know about timing. You know, it also comes down to what I call, this kind of interesting concept, what I call, you know, a bad cup of coffee. When I say a bad cup of coffee, we had, some of you may remember the Burger King escape several years ago where you had the convicts in the back of a van. They parked at Burger King to get a sandwich, and two of them escaped. I actually was at home. I had the sheriff on one phone, I had the governor on the other phone, and I was coordinating the National Guard response to put a helicopter in the air to go look for those folks. That's the type of work that I've done. One of my most memorable experience besides that one was 9/11. On 9/11, I was in Big Sky, Montana for the National Emergency Managers Conference, because I was up there representing the National Guard of Montana with Jim Green, who was the state coordinator. And I'm sitting down, I'm eating my breakfast, and I'm watching these towers get hit on the TV. I go back up to the conference area, and an SUV comes flying down, and that was the director of FEMA leaving to try and get down to an airplane to get back home. And then they had to get the New York City emergency manager out, and we had a bet as to who was gonna get back there first, because they put the FEMA director on a KC-135 and the guy from New York on an F-16. We think the F-16 beat the KC-135. But that's how you do. I mean, all civilian assets were down. Only thing that could fly was military. And the F-16 came out of North Dakota, but a request from Montana came in here, picked that emergency manager up and get him back there on a two-seater F-16. KC-135 is a fueler. We got all the individuals on there and got them out of here. Then we had to set up an emergency response area at Big Sky in a room, of course, big conference room. Instead of having, also we took everything down and made an emergency response in with all the different departments. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen from all over the United States got together. We had the FBI up there for security. Now, we talked mutual aid. Big Sky is in Madison County. Gallatin County is the one that supports Madison County as the Big Sky. So you had Gallatin County there providing law enforcement backup. We brought National Guard up with security to provide security around, because we had some pretty high level important people there. It happened just like this. And I'm up there, a lot of the coordination, because that was my job. And that was kind of one of my baptisms by fire when I hadn't been on the job that long when that happened. You gotta also talk about mitigation and recovery from disaster, because once things happen, folks, you gotta get back in, you gotta get things back going again. You gotta get the train back on the track. You gotta get the wildland fires. You got people, maybe you gotta get them back in their homes. Maybe some homes got burned. What are you gonna do to help those folks? You may have a flood issue. I mean, for example, like when I was 1959, when they had the earthquake, I was in Three Forks. And I remember I got taken up on a hill somewhere to get out of Three Forks, because had the earthquake dam broke, they said it was gonna come right on down, and we all know Townsend probably would've been one of the towns wiped out, because Missouri River's right there, folks. And so we know all about that. The last thing I got down, okay, I'm sorry, reassessment and adjustment. You're always doing that. When something happens, you have a training, you have hopefully not too many real world events. You come back, you reassess, you make adjustments, and then continue to drive on and train, and train, and train, and train, in preparation for something you hope never happens. And then also the last one was, and that's the area I don't have a lot of experience in, and of course that is in writing grants. I don't have that experience. I've managed grants, I've managed millions and millions of dollars. That's not the problem. Actually, being the person who requests them, I've never really done that. But I got an idea that I think it's not that, shouldn't be that difficult. I'm sure the blueprint's out there, it's just a matter of identifying how to do it right, and submit the material. I brought with me copies of my resume, so you kind of get an idea as to who I am and my credentials. So I'm, like I say, I was raised on a ranch over in Harrison, so I'm a native Montanan. I'm an Aggie. I went to college in Montana State. I have 2 master's degrees, one in education, and the other one is from the United States Army War College. So I know how to train, I know how to teach. I know how to coordinate. I've commanded a battalion level of artillery in preparation for war. You know, I never took them to war. And I have an extensive background in administration and logistical training and coordination for Montana. So, any questions? I'm open for questions now.
I have one for you, John.
Please.
There was a tabletop exercise about a year ago with Hebkin Dan, and the scenario was that it blew. People were invited from all over who would have been affected. The scenario for Townsend was all this debris and waters coming from Hebkin, coming down the Missouri, picking up trees, debris, houses, garages, cars, cows, you name it. And Townsend is under 8 feet of water, and of course we had the maps to show this. The team that went down included our DES agent at the time, our acting DES coordinator, he is in name only, does an awesome job. We had our sanitarian, we had our sheriff, we had a deputy, we had the head of the city crew, our public health nurse, myself as the commissioner. We had a whole carload. Anyway, as we were working that exercise, of course, the sheriff was doing her thing, law enforcement, public safety. The public health nurse was doing her thing, making sure that the nursing home was getting evacuated. People who live on their own had somebody there. The sanitarian, of course, had her hands full. And through it, we had the DES coordinator who was coordinating all the different pieces. Right now, of course, that's what we don't have, is a DES coordinator. Can you talk to, I guess for those who weren't at the tabletop, to see how the different pieces work, or who haven't been through an emergency yet, how is it that each of the different pieces work and the DES coordinator brings them together? And why is it that we couldn't just rely on a volunteer to leave another fire in another part of the state and rush home to an emergency, or rely on the sheriff, who obviously during an emergency is going to have her hands more than full? Why is it that we couldn't just rely on those guys and we would need some kind of a coordinator?
It comes down to the unity of the situation. You gotta have somebody bringing having visibility on all the resources and what everybody's doing, so that as you have limited resourcing, you're able to put them where they're best utilized for the situation. You know, I mean, for example, you know, the sheriff's probably not going to give up a deputy to go do something because she needs that deputy to go do something. Well, if you're talking about it, she may realize that, okay, I'm willing to give up a level of risk and let the deputy go help, you know, coordinate traffic movement to get people evacuated out of the hospital, because we got other people on roads are getting plugged up, so we gotta do something else. And you may have something, so basically the coordinator has to understand the complexities of emergency response and the role of each part of that emergency response, how they work independently, but yet how they work together, and how you can bring them together for the betterment of the whole. So that individual has to have a very solid understanding of all the resources that are available and how to best utilize them. Because you just can't walk in and say, okay, what do we got? You just can't walk in and have a situation board and not realize, and not even have it filled out. You know, all of a sudden it's like, no, you can't do that. You gotta be able, you gotta know where your alternate site is. You have all this stuff coordinated ahead of time so that people understand and they know. Without that individual, could you get by without them? It'd be tough. I mean, not impossible, but, you know, from the standpoint of a military officer, work at the brigade level, you've got several battalions out there working in coordination for an operation. Sure, you got individual units, but you all are working together for the common objective to succeed at the mission. In that case, to evacuate Townsend, there's a lot of coordination that has to go on. Limited resources, how do you best utilize them, and you gotta get people talking, and to make it, and you can't waste time. That's why you do a tabletop exercise, so that people understand, okay, I see what could happen if we make this decision, and you come back and you adjust. That's why tabletop exercises are so critical. And that person would coordinate that exercise, throwing scenarios in, throwing situations in. You know, that's kind of what they would do to say, okay, now what are you gonna do? Who are you gonna talk to? Who are you gonna coordinate with? You know? Hopefully I helped answer your question.
You did.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And you use the acronym EOC.
Emergency Operations Center.
Thank you.
Okay, you know, like I said, the state has a State Emergency Coordination Center, SECC. So, you know, and that's an excellent point. We talk from the language of where we're comfortable. And, you know, even there, the one I always got a kick out of was when we had the Lewis and Clark commemoration. Clint Blackwood was the state coordinator. I was the Montana Guard coordinator, and we talked on that, several different events going on. We had events here in Townsend. And I would sit down and I'd talk about, well, we can do this, we can do that, and Clint would go, okay, John, I'd like you to start over again, this time use English. And I'd go, okay, you know, because you gotta know how to, if you don't know your audience, you're not gonna communicate. And your point's well taken. I mean, I'm very comfortable with acronyms, and some people are or not, and you're right. So if someone who says we're gonna go to the SECZ, if you don't know what that is, now's not the time to be learning it. I mean, questioning it during an emergency, time to know it's in your ahead of time, and you've already visited, you've already, you know, Steve Connect, who is the operations officer for the SEC, a good friend of mine, and I've worked in that SEC many, many hours working with the state and provided briefings. In fact, one of the things I've done, I've actually, you know, after 9/11, I was the guy that coordinated all the briefings that involved all these different state agencies, and primarily one of the people we briefed a lot was the governor in March at that time. And I did a lot of the briefings, and I coordinated all the classified briefings. I bring to the table a lot of experience and a lot of, you know, training and things that I can provide and bring without having to worry about, does he know how to do this? Yeah, he does, he's done it. And not just do I know how, I've done it.
Question, Franklin?
One thing that you should know too is we do have an EOP that was completed, an emergency operation plan.
Okay.
And we had Mike Conkey, who is, he's been working with DES, kind of assisting our DES coordinator, and he actually visited every single facet that was involved in the EOP. We've got it here. It does have copy stains. And we were having monthly LEPC meetings, local emergency planning committee meetings that Dawn goes to faithfully, so that those relationships were being built. We haven't had one now for a couple of months, but now that we're in fire season, it's my thinking that we need to start them up again. So just my commentary.
There is no choice. I mean, it has to be done.
We had a fire last week in the Limestones, and we had, do you know about this?
The guard started, go ahead.
Yes. We had a number of citizens extremely upset, as well they should have been. They thought the fire was out, they thought they had the staff to take care of it. It turns out they didn't have the staff to take care of it. Called in DNRC. DNRC couldn't fly low enough to hit the fire, so that wasn't doing any good, so they left. The fire restarted on Thursday, about the time they wanted to restart live fire exercises. It was not well coordinated with the community or with the citizens. We had nobody to step in and be that liaison that had any concrete knowledge as to what was going on. We had telephone calls flying left, right, and every direction, but we didn't have that center person that could have given calm to the situation. And nothing happened, everything is fine. But I think that was a good, hit in the eye for us to realize we could be in an emergency situation in 5 minutes, and right now we're standing around with our pants down. So, again, just my commentary.
I've started a few fires on ranges.
That wasn't you.
No, I field artillery. I fired field artillery out here at Limestone. Now, that's not very safe because you gotta fire, you're gonna love this, charge 2 green bag high angle. Doesn't mean a darn thing to you by me saying that. In artillery, that's not very safe, but I've done it out here at Limestone. And it's been very safe. I've never fired out. So again, that's different terminology, but I've never fired unsafe.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Tim Rudolph, thank you, John, for coming down and giving an overview of the importance of this. Addressing the commission, Madam Chair, where is exactly our EOC? And if it's behind that locked door, I've never seen how those emergency responders can ever get to that EOC and have the logistical process set up for access for the first responders. And I guess the other part is the discussion of the emergency response plan. I did go upstairs and look at the one that's on file in the clerk and recorder's office, and that was created back in, or I'm gonna guess, don't quote me, I think it was back in 2001 to 2003 period. But anyway, that particular book has a section for department heads and all of the responsible officials of the county to sign on to that plan and to be familiar with it. The copy that's upstairs is blank. The resolution that supports that adoption of that plan was done in 2011, if I remember correctly, but it doesn't. So I'm just wondering, John, if you're here to help us with the void in our DEF coordinator position dilemma, I welcome you because it's a very important. If you're not, just for here for advice, then definitely we need some, and thank you, Commission. If you would like to respond to that, I guess that question or concern, or straighten me out if I'm wrong.
Madam Chair, I have some answers if you would like. First of all, the EOP, I can show you the one that's active right now, and it was completed in 2011. There's a resolution, and it's just in the office over here.
Okay.
I'd be happy to show it to you after the meeting. And as far as the EOC, it was discussed that it would be here at one time until it was discovered very quickly in that process that cell phones don't get out of this room. This is just an office. That's it. The EOC for Broadwater County, there's 2 of them. One is the city office, the other one is the fairgrounds. We have phone wiring, we have computer ability, we've installed everything we need for a major operation in both of those sites.
Thank you.
And we've had exercises evacuating the school, evacuating the hospital, to the fairgrounds should it be needed. Kids have it.
Don.
Thank you. Again, I'm Don Thompson. I wear a number of different hats. One of the hats that I wear here is as a disaster team chairman for the Red Cross for Broadwater and Marr counties. I also sit on the local emergency planning committee. I'm the recording secretary for that organization. And I'm also the Red Cross rep for that organization. When someone starts talking about disasters and emergency management, I start listening very, very carefully. I have a background in law enforcement, so I have a very active BS, you know what that stands for, detective. I was listening very carefully to what you said, sir. We can work well together. With respect to the commissioner's comments about the current emergency operations plan, it is current. I helped to make it current. I know what it says. It is current and there are copies available. One of the things that I wanted to do today as the Red Cross representative for Broadwater County for the Red Cross was to suggest to the commission that something be done to move forward with the coordination of emergency services. We're in the midst of just a hair's breadth away from disaster with a wildfire situation here in this county. If you don't believe it, take a look at the other side of the mountains over in Missoula, what's been happening over there. And the difference between Missoula County and Broadwater County is a matter of the letters in the words, that's it. We could have a very serious wildfire situation here this afternoon. I wanted to suggest to the commission that something be done to move forward to get that coordination function established and put in place very quickly. I'm glad to hear that I was a little late in that suggestion. I look forward to getting something done, to working, if that's the intent of the commission, to working with John. I think we could work very well together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Braster, I would echo what Don talks about. A couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was a week ago, I was up on top of Skidway, walking up through there, and the Idaho fescue is so dry, it shatters when you step on it. I mean, it's bad up there. Last year, Skidway was wet up on top when I was up there. But at this time, I was kind of concerned whether or not we should even have the kids up there. It's really nasty.
Top of Deep Creek is unreal.
Yeah, it's, I've never seen Idaho fescue as dry and shatter when you stepped on it, never.
I think it's very, very, very important to have somebody in place
Right now.
right now, this minute. Because John is right, John is right. Bat and eyebrow would be up in smoke real quick.
We had a fire on our ranch over outside of Harrison, and our neighbor was welding on his lawnmower. He raised his visor, and the fire was already taken off away from the lawnmower. And DNRC responded with helicopters, and I think at least three hand crews, which are of course 20 people per crew, and went right through part of our land. And candidly, we did very well because it was a piece of ground that needed to be burned off, and we got a brand new fence and got some really good grass. But
It doesn't always happen that way.
It doesn't always happen that way, but it could have been a lot worse, yes. And so, no, I'm very familiar with wildland fires and how quick they can move and how fast. I had a friend up in between outside of Chinook, and they had a grass fire pushed by winds that were just unbelievable. And they had a little ranch outside of town. They had a bunch of things in storage, and they lost everything. That fire just went right through, just didn't never even slow down. You know, so yeah, wildland fires are just, you know, and then you gotta look at, all the different things that can happen, and and how things change, and how the way things work. And like I say, fortunately, I've been there and done that.
It's not fun.
No, ma'am, no. I mean, I've helped respond to, we had the snowstorms in the Blackfeet Reservation. And the biggest challenge they have up there is a lot of people need dialysis, and they're out in the hinterland. And how do you get them into town, into the hospital to get their dialysis? And couldn't even get to them because they had 6 to 8 foot drifts, heavy wet snow. And so we actually positioned a helicopter up there to be on site, fly and bring people out if needed. Didn't have to do that. They were able to kind of get to the people they knew, or some people had already moved into town ahead of time, but we were ready. They had the snowstorm down east Montana, down around Broadus, from Broadus and Miles City, that closed that highway completely, and there was 7 or 9 cars stranded. And we launched two helicopters the next day to 2 different counties to check on each of those vehicles. We landed at every one. They were all empty because the local people, the local ranchers went out there with their great big tractors, went to each vehicle and recovered all the people. The cars were still there, still buried in the snow, but the local people had got word, they went out, found those cars, found the people, and took care of them. But we had a helicopter the next day checking. So, I've been to all different flooding. I actually coordinated, we had floods down in Livingston, and help coordinate getting people down there. Now, primarily a lot of it's security when it comes to, is just keeping people out, looky-loos. That's one of the biggest challenges they had last year with the fire over in the scratch gravels out in Wilson Park, Council of Helen. I was talking to Sheriff Dutton, and the biggest challenge he had were looky-loos. People parking along what we call Green Meadow Drive. And I said, why can't you just ticket them and just do something? A little bit more blunt. But, and he and I had a great visit. I'm really good friends with Sheriff Dutton. And, that's what, getting the fire trucks to the fire, was one of the biggest challenges because of all the people parking to watch the fire. You know, these things can happen, you know, it's like, how do you get the word out, tell people to stay home? Stay away. Let the first responders get there and let the local people get out.
Well, and Leo had a thing on the radio saying,
Oh.
stay away.
Oh, I live in the southeastern part of Lewis and Clark County, just about, what, a half mile from the Broadwater County border. And I could see it, I watched it from my home. And the fire you had out here just recently, out the end of the Spokane Hills, you know, my wife and I were driving home, and was like, that looks interesting. And, yeah, people were just traveling back, kind of watching the fire, you know, coming down Highway 12 to see what was going on, you know, and, yeah, we watched it from home. Because it didn't involve us. Apologize for the little editorial there.
That's all right.
No,
That's
it's good,
interesting.
yeah.
Second, Mark, suggestions, comments?
I would like to, talk to Debbie, she's our HR manager, and see what we can do as far as putting an advertisement out there that we need a deputy DES coordinator right now. And either look at contracting or hiring somebody part-time. We need somebody who can come in, start meeting people, start working with people, and you know, make sure that we're okay. The greatest idea, or the greatest circumstance would be that we, you know, just get to know somebody and don't need them. But I do feel that it's irresponsible of us not to be moving forward and addressing this issue. So if it is all right with the board, I would like to pursue that and start getting some advertisements out and get something in the agenda for us to act as soon as possible.
I agree.
Okay.
I think it's 90 yesterday, and probably gonna be that today, and,
Thunderstorm just happened.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Tim?
Madam Chair, is it possible under statute and or the process in a situation where Broadwater's County is at to ask maybe for a volunteer or a temporary position to fill until you go through the natural process of filling the deputy coordinator position and or the full coordinator position resolved? Again, John is here, has got experience, and I'm wondering if, you know, you maybe like applying for the job, and if there's a way that legally we could put a temporary under an emergency situation, possibly to fill that position, to get started on this, instead of waiting for a couple of weeks or a month for the normal process to permanently fill that position to take place. Because I agree, it is an emergency situation when you don't have anybody to coordinate the first responders in this case. So that would be my question, again, if we can do that.
That's
If
a
we
good question
can't,
for Debbie.
That'll be my first question, yeah.
you'll be what?
That'll be one of my first questions,
To who?
to HR.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the call and reading the paper and for coming down, very much
Yeah,
appreciated.
I read both papers every day, cheap old house.
I have a business
Thank you very
card I'm
much.
not gonna let you read without taking one.
Yeah, my contact information are on top of this.
Wonderful. Thank you
much.
very much.
Thanks, Rick.
And I apologize for not wearing my coat, but a little bit more.
Yes, it is.
Not a problem.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Simonich?
I know, yeah. Good to see you.
Madam Chair.
How are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. I'm here whenever you get to a discussion on the notification to purchasers.
I think we're there.
Good.
I'm
I think
patient,
we're
happy
there.
to wait otherwise.
Oh, we're gonna take a lunch break now.
Okay.
Not really. Some of you guys have been waiting and waiting. We'll continue on. Tell me what went on last week with that.
We had some really good comment. 2 years ago, we had addressed it and really hadn't gotten any response other than the surveyor or a member of a survey company, a title company, had spoken. We went in and passed the resolution. Julie came up with a addition to that resolution based on what a local realtor had experienced. And that is what kind of brought this up. I believe it was an employee of the clerk recorder's office sent the resolution to title companies, local realtors, and I believe they contacted Mr. Simonich. Last week, we had a discussion on the overall resolution that we had passed in 2011 and the amendment to it, and got some really good feedback from everybody involved. Along with that, we did reiterate to Mr. Simonich and everybody involved why we had looked at this, and spoke to the fact that we had had so many people purchase property, and all of a sudden we find out after they bought it that it had an exempt on it, so they could build. They were surprised to learn they had to go through the subdivision regulations. So the issue was brought forward, the resolution was further discussed, and now we have some additional conversation. Okay. Did I get everything? All right.
Very good.
Mr. Simonich, how many years standings on this?
Madam Chair, we provided a letter to the commission last week, hopefully you've got a copy of it. Our feeling is that the resolution that Broadwater County adopted probably goes beyond the county's authority to make the requirements that you have. The specific statute does not require a notification to purchaser to be recorded with the clerk and recorder. It simply requires that it is that the seller has to provide certain type of information to the purchaser on a sale of a parcel under a subdivision. So we think the resolution itself is far beyond what should or could be required by law.
Too far reaching.
Indeed. We understand the goal of the county to make sure that purchasers are well informed, and I guess along those lines, we've been thinking of how we might be able to help better inform people within our profession that are involved with real estate transactions. Every year, real estate licensees, salespersons and brokers are required to undergo 12 hours of continuing education, and they have to take an additional mandatory, what is called a core course. And that varies from year to year, whether it's 3 or 4 hours. But there is continuing education that is required. I've had some communication with a gentleman, a real estate attorney over in Missoula, Zane Sullivan, who teaches one of those courses for us. And we have a class that will be coming up here on the 4th of October that we'll be offering to our members. It's a legal forum. In that particular class, Zane touches on a lot of case law, real estate case law, changes in statutes of different types, different statutes that it's felt that are not being addressed or people need to be more aware of. And Zane has agreed to incorporate this particular statute on notification to purchasers as part of that discussion for the legal form class that we'll be holding in October. In addition to that, Zane is one of the individuals that works closely with the Board of Realty Reg, and he creates the curriculum for the core class. The core class, let me back up just a second, of the continuing education that's required for realtors across the state. The education, the specific classes fall either into categories of mandatory categories or elective categories, a variety of different types of classes that are then taught. But realtors can pick and choose among those. A couple of years ago, the Board of Realty Reg adopted a new requirement for a specific core class that every single realtor in the state has to take every year. And the conversation I've had with Zane are along the lines that for the 2014 license year, which begins November 1st, that Zane will work to incorporate this specific statute, better understanding of the knowledge, the necessity to transmit information from the purchaser to the seller regarding subdivisions into that core class, so that beyond just the class that we may teach, that people that our members may take, get it built in as a part of a required curriculum statewide for realtors. And with that effort in mind, we would really support the county commission taking the step to rescind the resolution that was adopted 2 years ago.
Thank you. Comment from the public?
Madam Chair, I looked at rescinding resolution, so did Ann. And because the steps we follow to enact a resolution are 3 weeks advertising, I think we should probably, if we're going to do this, follow the same steps. I am prepared to move, to go ahead and do that. This was done to protect buyers of property from unknowingly purchasing property that they couldn't use. If the legal forum addresses this, if the Board of Realty regulations puts this into their core curriculum, I think we've got the best possible answer for the citizens that buy property in Broadwater County. We don't have a resolution that we're the only one in the state to have. We don't have a resolution that the clerk and recorder's office is reticent to adopt and record. We don't have a resolution that realtors and title companies don't like. But by doing this resolution, we may have gotten exactly what we need for people who purchase land in this county. And with that in mind, I think it's the best possible answer to go ahead and graciously accept what Mr. Simonich has brought forward and move to go ahead and put in process the process to rescind this particular resolution in total.
Yeah, I think we should leave it, let them come up with something. At this point, the buyers still aren't protected, and at least they're protected until if they come up with whatever they're gonna have, we can always rescind it then. But at this point, I think we should just leave it alone. The buyers has no protection right now, and like they say, they're buying their piece of ground and they find out afterwards they can't do anything with it. So.
Mr. Simonich, would you address that? Do buyers have any protection or responsibility at this point?
I think there is protection in place for buyers. When title insurance is acquired, the title companies produce a title report, and part of that title report always provides an indication of any kind of encumbrance on the land. So within the title report, there are references to the certificate of survey, the condition of subdivision approval, all the kinds of documents that this statute requires the buyer to be given are all referenced in the title report, and the purchaser is made aware of those at the time of the closing and has the opportunity to review those documents in detail if he or she chooses to do so. I think the bigger issue that you've got is the county has adopted a resolution that we don't believe you have the authority to adopt, and you've got a clerk and recorder that isn't real willing to implement it because of a variety of other reasons. And so you've put into place a solution that you think is a solution that really isn't affording any protection to the public.
Thank you.
You said the people that are already protected, apparently they're not, if all these cases have been coming up.
Well, there is certainly a responsibility on the part of any purchaser to do their own due diligence and look into aspects of the property that they're buying.
Well, I agree on that.
They have to look into it, and if they're given an opportunity to read documents and they're not reading them, that's they've got to accept responsibility for that.
If you rescind this motion, then what is there, aside from the title companies referencing these things, what is there to protect the buyer in a private exchange? You know, he's saying that they're willing to have a requirement for, in their continuing education class, to make the title companies aware of this existence. But in a private exchange, what protection is afforded to the purchaser? Or does the purchaser need additional protection? Is it his responsibility to find out these things?
Personally,
Legitimate question right there.
personally, I believe that the buyer has some responsibility here too. Not just the seller, but the buyer, to check everything out and make sure and not just take their word for it that, oh yeah, this is fine, when in fact it's really not. I think they've got some responsibility there.
I certainly would agree with that.
And Mark, could you address that too, as far as protections, in a private transaction?
You know, there are a number of opportunities along the way, during a transaction that the buyer can change their mind and withdraw from the transaction as they learn more information. If in fact the buyer has purchased a piece of property and there are material facts that have not been made known, or material defects of the property not made known, there are some legal recourses available to the purchaser to then get out of that transaction or to have that transaction reversed. There are legal actions and they need to pursue it in that fashion. But again, the buyer's responsible to understand, know what they are getting into. Realtors have a responsibility, a legal and an ethical responsibility to make sure that they convey any information to the prospective buyers that has a material impact on the sale of the property, and particularly if there could be some material defect to the property. They have a legal and ethical responsibility, and there are implications for the realtor if that is not done as well. So it's not that one party is getting away with something and the other isn't. It really is working to try and make sure, in my opinion, make sure parties to the transaction are fully informed and can make the best judgment decisions they can when the time comes.
Does that answer some of your questions, Franklin?
Well, yeah, I still feel that I should just leave it till they come up with what we feel is, that we can rescind our account. At least we've got something there to.
What about the legal forum and the core curriculum?
Oh, yeah, of course, right away, you're gonna start to get all the legal aspects of it going. I mean, at this point, I don't think we should do anything for right now. People are showing us what they wanna have, and then we can go from there. We can always rescind it then.
Of course, they're implementing this now, so how long should we wait?
Well, have they got implemented, for sure.
They're implementing a legal
That's what
forum.
yeah, but it isn't completed yet. So,
No, those things don't happen in what we meet last week.
well, yeah, I know. I just see why I have to rush into it. I don't think we have to.
Are we open for a lawsuit of implementing something that we have no business doing?
Don't we have any reason? I mean, it was done, what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I mean, and it don't make any difference to me, but I just don't see why we have to jump right on it and rescind it right now.
We haven't really jumped right on it. The Board of Health met about this, whenever our last meeting was, probably 6 weeks ago. We had a lengthy discussion last week. We met on this a year ago. This isn't really a turn on a dime type decision at this point. I think it's a responsible thing to do to rescind it, and I will tell you my reasons why. One is we have the mechanism on record and on YouTube that you guys will be doing this. We have some question as to this law that we used to do the resolution, and it did get vetted through the county attorney about 2011. But does it apply to property purchased outside of a subdivision? It doesn't appear so. We also have a clerk and recorder's office who is not following through with this resolution because they oppose it. All those things put together, in my mind, equal a potential liability for our citizens.
It's a red flag.
It is. Doing this has gotten 2 major wins for people buying property in Broadwater County. One is further education of realtors as to the importance of, thoroughly informing buyers of what they're buying, to protect people. And, if this continues, or we haven't had any for quite some time, but if it were to happen again, we certainly have the ability to look at another resolution or do something to protect our citizens. I just think we need to be a little bit responsible as well and address the fact that, we've gotten 2 wins here for our citizens. I think maintaining a resolution that could put our citizens in potential liability is, just not a wise idea.
I would have to agree. And with that, I will second the motion. It's moved and seconded then that we advertise to rescind our resolution regarding the sale of property. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same? No, Frank Winter said no. Right?
Say no.
Abstain.
Are you abstaining?
And so, we'll have a public hearing then, let's see, 1, 2, 3, not sure about my adding here. You advertise the 8th, 9th, and 22nd, so we would revisit this the 26th of August. Post added at 10:30 after Judy Tice. All right. Thank you very much for all the work, the homework.
Commissioners, thank you very much. We'll be back on the 26th to support your efforts then. And we will continue to keep you up to date as we go forward with our continuing education efforts.
Thank you
Tell you
very
what,
much.
Now it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
All right, we put you down at 10:30, Mark, on the
I'll be here.
26th.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Further public comment?
Request for change, typically what the students.
All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a problem. I am going to reply to Mr. Bray's message that he read in the July 22nd meeting.
Can you tell us who you are?
I am Melinda Holm. And this is my response to Mr. Bray's message that he read to us. In response to Paul Bray's message he read at Commissioners' meeting on July 22nd, I have several questions. He says in the third sentence, several of us. Who do you mean by several? Who are their names? These folks you mentioned are capable of granting us thousands of dollars. Your words. Thousands could mean 2,000. Exactly how many thousands are you talking about?
250,000.
Is this a private foundation? What do they get in return?
Nothing.
He mentioned storefronts are attractive and cared for. Do they know that some of these stores are empty and for sale? You say the first question they ask of us is, what in the world is going on with your county government? Is someone over his head? Who are you referring to, Mr. Bray? You ask what they see when they Google us. It's sad for me to say this, but I feel they are seeing the truth. We are a mess. Mr. Bray, if you are unable to provide answers to my questions, I feel your message is not proffering a positive solution, but rather smoke and mirrors. Your smoke and mirrors is not working towards solving problems. Instead, you are creating them. Lastly, you state on Wednesday, when I meet with this representative of this group, are you now the only one instead of the several of us working to get this grant funding? You stated several at first, then you went to I. Also, you stated Wednesday meeting. Did you have the meeting? You have no dates, so was it a Wednesday in July? Is it a Wednesday in August? Or is it a Wednesday in September? What Wednesday? Thank you, Mr. Bray, and thank you, Commissioners, for your time.
May I respond to this?
Yes, you may.
It's too bad that she doesn't learn to read, to start with. Number one, when I said several of us, there are 2 or 3 people on this committee who don't want to be named. They don't want their participation public, because by remaining anonymous, if you will, somewhat anonymous, they have a greater chance of succeeding with this group. Yes, it is a private group, Yes, they do give out a lot of money, $10 million a year. We are seeking from them $250,000. Probably won't get that. If we get anything, it'll probably be, we're hoping it'll be in the neighborhood of $200,000. And, you know, you always have a prayer and then you have a realistic view. I am the one who was scheduled to meet with the gentleman and his group on the Wednesday following, July 25th, I made that. The meeting did not occur because the gentleman's mother died and the meeting was rescheduled. I don't know just when it will be at this point in time. Did I miss anything?
Who's over the head? You said, the first question they ask is, what in the world is going on with your county government? Is someone over his head? Who are you referring to in this statement?
Don't have any idea. I didn't bother to ask him.
Any further comments? Bob?
Bob Brastrup, in regards to Mr. Ravindell's resolution that you have here, I don't know exactly what the procedure is, and since you've set a time for a hearing, I guess I will hold my comments until you get that hearing. However, from what little I do know, I question whether the commission has the authority to do anything with it. The state can't nullify federal law. Commissioners, I don't think, can nullify state law.
Are you referring to the
the Second Amendment resolution? So I don't know what the procedure is, but I think you need to have some kind of an opinion on this resolution before you go forth with the hearing. And I don't know who you go to. There's people in here that will not believe or will not listen to the county attorney's opinion. I don't know if and that would be the person you would normally start with, I think. I don't know if the Attorney General has the authority to rule on it, but I would like to see something in here for some kind of a ruling as to whether or not you even have the authority to do what this resolution is requesting. I don't know of a judge that would probably convict anybody on this one for violating it.
Thank you. Tim?
Madam Chair, just a real quick response. I'll look forward to the hearing. At the working meetings, we did present some information that gives Supreme Court case law, giving the authority for the governments to do actions in this nature. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other extra business? Tim?
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I just got a couple of things here I'd like to go through. I know it wasn't on the agenda today, but it is in items that are moving forward in the county. The first thing I'd like to address is last week there was a Broadwater County Public Responsibility Ordinance introduced. Are you familiar with that, Commissioner Gravely?
No, I'm not.
Okay. There was real quick brief history. From what I understand, somebody came to Nicole and or one of the other folks here in the county and asked for a vicious dog ordinance countywide. And so this particular ordinance was put together by our planner, Ms. Brown. That's to my knowledge. I don't want to correct me if that's not who put this together, but I think that's correct. It's being presented and it's being moved forward through our process here for consideration. It hasn't been officially brought to the table yet, but it is coming forward. And I'd like to go on record with my opposition to this particular process of adopting an ordinance in this matter. And in the essence of time, rather than reading this right now, I'd like to submit this for the record, Madam Chair, so that it can be included in the discussion when the matter is brought before the commission for discussion.
Thank you.
Another thing that I guess I would like to bring up right now at this opportune time is we already touched on the fact that we, as citizens, are in a situation where we really don't know what we got going on with the DES coordinator position, and in the case of emergency, that is not good for Broadwater County in anybody's eyes, regardless of how you look at this. We've been sitting here for approximately 4 months for sure, up to 6 months now. Easily could be said that we knew we had to make some changes here, and I urge the commission to do everything within the authority under the commission type government here in Broadwater County to move this issue forward so that we can get either John or somebody else in position. I understand that without having that done officially, for example, Mr. Conkey, who has been by name referred to as a deputy coordinator, I don't know if that's really proper, because without an official declaration of that particular position, no job description for that position, that leaves him and or the county in a precarious position of being able to say who's responsible and how that process is done and who is accountable in each one of them sections. So I urge the commission to move forward on that in the most expedient manner possible. Earlier there was discussion of having Mr. Hone from the Solid Waste Department do some training for the safety officer position or for the safety plan. I'm not sure exactly how in-depth that was going. I raised a question earlier regarding that proposal, and I think John kind of elated to reasons for concern is in his business. He referred to lots of training, and in my experience, for someone to be in a training position, they have to be trained first, and I'm not sure if Broadwater County is in a position to accept an in-house trainer, if you will. I would like to make sure that publicly we understand what the background and those requirements for that training are. If we bypass any one step there, then that training could be invalidated, leaving us back to square one. So that's the purpose of my bringing that up. It's not to shoot at Mr. Hone or anybody else in the county. Just there's really not any disclosure publicly as far as what the requirements. It hasn't been discussed at this point in time. Bringing back to the EOC or the Emergency Operation Plan, a couple weeks ago or last week, 2 weeks ago I think it was, I asked where that plan is, and I was referred to the one upstairs. And that plan that's available for public, and again, I was referred that I will be able to see another book, but if we have one on file with the Clerk and Recorder's Office, I think it's important to make sure that that file is at least updated with the sheets for responsible officials signing on to that plan, because what happens is there's only one that's got the signatures, and from what I understand, all department heads are to have a copy of that according to what's in that plan. So, Madam Chair, it's just a little bit of house cleaning, suggestions and or requests, making sure that everything is transparent and everybody understands what is going on there with that process. I question one thing here that I think is important, and I'm not going to mention names because it is an ongoing process, but with one of our employees on administrative leave, I was advised that there was an invoice that came through the for payment last week regarding the cell phone bills, and from what I understand, our administrative person that's on leave is still using the county issued cell phone, making calls to multiple places on that phone, as in doing business, whether it's official county business or otherwise. I think it should be properly addressed by the commission to look into that situation. It just does not look good, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I think it should be addressed. Last but not least, I would like to highly recommend that the county commission take a close look at another county, and I'll use Lewis and Clark County for an example, and I'm speaking of the agenda. when this agenda comes out, I was looking at this morning and getting prepared to come to the meeting so I could at least be somewhat informed on what's going on at the meeting as a citizen. And I'll tell you what, had I not been at these meetings on a regular basis, 90% of these things that are under here for items for discussion, signature, or review, you wouldn't have a clue whether it's for discussion, whether it's for review, whether it's for signature. And today, just examples of having the lease on the DOR office. I mean, you know, it's listed in 2 places there, has no detail, has no reference to exactly what the proposal is being done or what its purpose is. Mr. Senator Mitch, excuse me for not pronouncing that right name correctly, but was in here, is not on the agenda, not listed on giving a presentation. John was not on the agenda, not to give a presentation. I think it's important in order to keep that ability for the people to know what's going on ahead of time with that agenda is real simply cured. And I recommend highly take a look at Lewis and Clark County's agenda. They have the item for discussion, they have the action proposed to be discussed, and they also have the name of the person that's available for discussion. Most of these agendas in the past in Broadwater County have been lacking in enough detail for folks that aren't involved to understand what's going on. So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your time, and please take that under advisement and see if we can improve on things.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention too.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Public discussion. I have a set of minutes, July 22nd.
Move we approve those minutes.
Should be 29. Did I forget to change that?
Just give me a link just real quick.
Yeah. Was it the 29th?
Yeah.
I move we approve those minutes with a change in the date. And those were sent out via email for edits. Was it Monday afternoon or Tuesday?
Yeah,
It was
the
early
same
this
ones
week.
Yeah.
Do we still have this?
Thank you. Yes, we do. I'll take 2 minutes.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of July 29th, 2013. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed the same. Motion carried. I'm gonna re-sign it for you because I was not here.
All right.
And then you can just change that top page to date. Anything else for the good of the order?
No, not for me.
I think we have a personnel issue to tend to. Forgot. Just in a couple minutes.
I got one thing. You want me to check on that? We had that meeting at Stockyards. And I got back to them, and they just, she says, I said, I thought that was a little high. And so, one thing, she said, nobody ever got back to her again. The thing was set up, so she cleaned the place twice, and then I guess whoever got there first was really rude to her. But anyway, the decision was just whatever we want to pay. So, I would
What is a
just,
fair amount to
I would just suggest $100 maybe.
First off, you know, you did make the reservation, so the follow-up landed on you.
I made the reservations all, I turned it over to the solid waste board.
They were not aware of that, so all I'm saying is, you know, the communication's important so that people know who's going to be in charge. We took it on. So, as far as the charge, the school charges other groups $25, and that's to cover heat and electricity. They actually waived that for the county. I'm not opposed to paying for the facility. They did set it up very nicely with table and chairs. I would suggest $25, because that is precedent, what's been set for having a meeting at the school. No other businesses have charged us that I'm aware of, or at least as long as I've been here.
What have they been charging normally down there?
I don't know. How did this come about, the solid board waste meeting? and they were gonna set up one down there, and it was just a discussion. I said, I'll just call the stock, I didn't know where at. And I says, because I've been in meetings there, and Wheat, Montana is too small, 'cause there should have been at least 100 people there. Solid Waste is gonna send letters out to everybody down there. Nothing, they said they didn't have any addresses, but anyway, so there was 18, 19 people, and there should have been, I would guess, because there's 250 homes, plus, over 250 homes, plus the business, so there'd have been probably 100 people. But anyway, that's the way it ended up, so.
Let me make a phone call, see what I can do.
On the rate,
Mhm.
okay. Amelia
I'll
is
tell
one I
Jerry.
talked to, okay, I didn't talk to Jerry, I talked to Amelia,
I'll talk to Jerry,
okay,
see what I can get done.
that's fine.
Anything else? Okay.
Are we set to have our meeting tomorrow in Winston?
Wednesday,
Wednesday?
yes,
Wednesday at
10:30.
10:30, okay.
Thank you for the reminder. We have a, part of the traveling around the county. Wednesday's meeting, which is a regular meeting day, will be at 10:30 in the, Big Bowl. And they are opening special for us. They'll have a, meeting room set up there. And, we'll be talking with, MDT. The,
10:30?
mhm, yep. And the discussion will be, the speed limit for, Highway 287 out Winston there.
Okay, anything else?
No, public comment, I'm sure, you know, we'll be open to that, so.
When was this decided to have the meeting in Winston on Wednesday?
We talked last Monday, so it was a week ago.
No, I don't think, we didn't talk about having a meeting there.
Deborah and I did on the phone, we did in person and on the phone. I did send out an email, so, kind of the same with the airport board meeting, I didn't hear any response, and did say if you have an objection. But this is something we've been doing, this isn't new,
Right.
by any stretch. We've had a meeting in the Wheatland area that we were just talking about, we had a meeting in Raidersburg that we just a couple months ago. This is something we agreed on as a board to be doing, to having meetings around the county to kind of bring people in, to communicate better with citizens. This is a regular meeting day, so it's,
Is this the meeting you talked
there's
about a
nothing
while ago?
until,
I had a note here to write down and I can't.
I
Is this the
didn't-
meeting that was talked about a little while ago, so there's gonna be a meeting on Wednesday?
Mhm,
I mean, just a few minutes ago.
mhm.
Okay, and I thought, but it didn't say that it was gonna be a Wednesday, just said there's gonna be a meeting Wednesday. About, here in the last hour or so. Or during this meeting. So was there another meeting or is this the one?
That should be the one.
So,
we
okay, I'm
talked
so,
about it before today. But this is the details, and I'm glad you reminded me to bring that up.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
On that subject, and I guess I just would maybe just reiterate, going back to the agendas and everything, I mean, Commissioner Obert says she had a discussion with Ms. Brown about having that meeting. I do not recall the discussion at last week's meeting. I've got today's agenda, it does not have it broke down for Wednesday's meeting being planned. If this was scheduled last week, Monday, or agreed upon last week to do, the whole point, Madam Chair and Commissioner Obert, is to have that fair notice to the folks that there is a meeting and where it's at. Because it's been agreed to hold those meetings revolving across the county, but I honestly am at a loss for just until just now of learning about this meeting being scheduled for Winston.
Right here, it's not on there. Debbie, I misspoke, I apologize. It's not this Wednesday, it's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
And it will be fully noticed.
Okay, thank you.
It's in the agenda.
So August 14th.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
okay.
This helps me.
I apologize for that.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're on there, sitting here Wednesday, waiting for a meeting.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
good, thanks.
It
And you
was,
would have seen it, Franklin, on your agenda, for next Wednesday. So,
Would that be advertised then in the paper for the entire county?
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else ready for lunch?
dinner time, ain't it?
Getting close, getting close. I apologize that it took so long today, but it was stuff that needed to be heard and needed to be said, and, so.
Well, continue your recovery, Madam Chair, and we'll look forward to you here every week.
I'm looking forward to it. Last week was the first week my doctor finally said, you can go back to work for a couple of hours a day. And he also, better yet, said you can drive as long as I'm not taking painkillers. And that was a wonderful thing, because I felt like I was a prisoner in my own home. If I needed a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk, I couldn't go get it, you know. And granted, I've got kids around here, but
I can resemble that one.
me too. It wasn't fun, but neither was all the safer stuff in the problem, so. The good news is we're on the downhill side, so.
Well, Madam Chair, before we adjourn, I would like to request a closed-door personnel meeting, based on the fact that the rights of the individual far outweigh the rights of the public to know. We should have it as a closed door,
You know, it take a couple minutes.
less than 2.
We can do it.
All right. We don't need.
Thanks for being here, Trudy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Glad to see you back.
Thank you for all you do.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, it's
Scary one.
Oh, okay. Take care there.
Well, that sounds ominous.
Yeah,
Okay, well. I know.
Yes, they would.
There was something that they didn't have enough. Is it John Johnson's? Okay.